Hello and welcome po sa isa na naman pong episode dito sa HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay at Iba pa. Naku, napaka-exciting po ng ating topic ngayon. Kaya welcome po sa lahat. Don't forget to share our episode for today. Don't forget to let us know also where you're watching from. Tag your friends, tag your colleagues para naman ma-share natin ang ating learning for today. And of course, if this is your first time attending here dito sa ating HR Cafe, syempre kailangan makilala natin ang ating mga HR Cafe servers. We have Coach Darwin Rivers, a multi-awarded HR executive with more than 20 years of progressive leadership and management experience working with top Fortune 500 multinational companies. He's also the founder and CEO of the Philippines HR Group, the largest Facebook group for Philippine HR professionals. He's a certified life coach, public speaker, and motivational speaker, as well as an HR consultant. Good Sunday afternoon, Coach Dar. Kamusta ka po?
Magandang umaga, tanghali, gabi sa lahat po ng nanonood at nakikinig at sa lahat ng mga team replays. Isa na naman pong episode ng HR Cafe. And kaabang-abang talaga lalo itong episode na to kasi two major topics, mental health and also influencing leaders. So abangan niyo po yan.
Ayan, maraming salamat Coach Dar. Of course, kasama din po natin si Mentor Alan Cañete. Unfortunately, hindi ata makakasama today si Mentor Alan. But Mentor Alan is an HR, L&D, and OD practitioner with more than 20 years of corporate and freelance consulting experience. He is the president and managing director of Creative Moves Business Outsourcing and the board director of Philippines HR Group. At syempre, kung nandyan si Coach Darwin at si Mentor Alan, nandyan din po si Mentor Tina Coang. Mentor Tina is an operations and HR leader with broad local and overseas experience. She is the general manager for retail company, an online content creator and blogger of TinaInManila.com, and one of LinkedIn's top 100 Filipinos to follow for learning and inspiration. Mentor Tina, kumusta po ang iyong Sunday?
My Sunday is very good because I really believe that the topic today is very much worth it. We are going to talk about how HR can effectively influence upper management, which is a very valuable skill for any HR from any rank. And syempre naman, I'm very happy that everybody is here. For anyone who is here, please say hi by leaving your name, where you are in the Philippines or overseas on the chat box so we can give you a shout out at the show.
Ayan, maraming salamat, Mentor Tina. And of course, yours truly, Rona Florentino. I've been an HR practitioner for more than 2 decades now, working with different local and international companies. I'm also the president and CEO of Upper Social Geekers. I'm a public speaker and HR consultant and one of LinkedIn's top 100 Filipinos to follow for learning and inspiration. Ayan po. Bakit nga ba merong HR Cafe? HR Cafe is here to provide timely news and updates, impart knowledge and experience that are value-adding and beneficial to our audience, discuss problems, issues, and challenges, and provide answers and resolutions on HR topics, provide weekly free training via our expert and seasoned guest resource speakers, discuss new technologies, tools, and processes, as well as industry best practices, and bridge understanding between employers and employee. We are also here to provide you inspiration and motivation para may energy tayo bukas dahil Monday na naman po bukas. Ayan. At hindi makukumpleto ang isang episode ng HR Cafe kung wala po tayong wow quote for the week. And this week's quote is coming from Bob Marley. Ang sabi po niya, The greatness of a man is not in how much wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively. Ayan. Coach Dar, ano masasabi mo sa ating wow quote for the week?
I think it's a reminder of who we are for those people who are in the HR profession and those who are people leaders. Every words, every action that we do, it it mirrors who we are as a person. It also affects the people or the team that we manage. So if we are able to inspire, if we are able to motivate, if we are able to develop and grow people, then it's not your title, it's not your salary, it's not the level of career you've achieved, but the people you have helped affect their lives for them to grow in their own career, or the people that you're able to help in their own personal issues, maliit man yan o malaki. That's where HR is really talagang napakasayang career ito. It's something where we're in a position. It's not only a position of power, but it's in a position where we are able to help not only the company grow, but also the people that we serve develop, grow, and be inspired and be more than who they are. I think that's very important. Kasi naman, di ba, pag nawala naman tayo dito sa mundo, hindi naman tatanungin ni Lord anong title mo o gaano kakayaman. Ang tatanong sa atin, anong nagawa mong mabuti para sa kapwa mo? And I think we're in that position to do the very best to inspire people and also to change people live better lives. So that's it for me.
Agree, Coach Dar. Napaka-importante talaga ng integrity, lalong-lalo na sa mga HR professionals. Kasi, ano tayo nandun tayo sa isang posisyon na pag tayo yung nagsalita, automatic tinitingnan ng mga tao or pinapakinggan niya ng mga tao at tinitingnan nila yon. They see it from a point of view na it's something that they have to adhere to or follow, which is why we have to be careful with what we say, how we act, how we carry ourselves. But I would want to challenge what Bob Marley mentioned here, that it's not about how much wealth acquires. Kasi it challenging not Bob Marley but how people interpret this. Kasi minsan na nangyayari sa atin, para siya nagiging either or. Either you have integrity and no money, or you have money and no integrity, leading to the belief na pag ikaw ay may pera, para ba ang sama mong tao, 'di ba? Hindi naman gano'n 'yun. But tulad nga ng sabi sa isang comment natin, money is not everything. But you need to make sure na you have integrity, you also know your worth. Okay, yun yung gusto kong ano dito, i-focus more dito. But I truly 100% agree that, what's most important is how we affect the people around us, how we serve as inspiration to them, and how we help them become better versions of ourselves. What about you, Mentor Tina? Ano pong masasabi mo sa ating wow quote for the week?
The world judges success as people who have gained a lot of wealth, a lot of authority, and a lot of power, which usually comes sometimes in unscrupulous ways. Kasi hindi lahat ng pera nakukuha sa tamang paraan. Mas maraming pera ang nakukuha sa illegal na paraan. Yung
Ano ba yan yung mga
palakasan, mga
yung mga
Senator
honorable senators
Robredo.
and Congress?
Right. Basta maraming yumayaman, lalong-lalo na sa Pilipinas, hindi sa malinis na paraan. And I think there is a temptation sometimes for HR and people with influence and authority to sometimes close their eyes in exchange for favors or money. Meron nga ako nakausap kahapon na accountant. Tinalikuran daw niya ang isang posisyon. Nandun na siya ano na siya kasama na siya ng bureau na yon. Inoferan daw siya ng isang senador ng 50 million pesos in a bag just to not look at the company. Yung pikit mata na lang. And so he decided na lang na to raffle back that slot kasi kung if he gave in, yung integrity niya mawawala. If he didn't give in, kawawa siya tsaka yung pamilya niya. So he decided to quit and then go into private practice instead. And I think it's a very good reminder that our life is a choice. Some
Sure.
people might choose money and power and authority, while other people choose the integrity and the character and the right way. I'm not gonna judge which way you're going to choose because I understand why some people might prefer to close their eyes and choose where they get more money and influence. Kasi sabi na, kahit na alam ko naman sinakripisyo ko ang integrity ko, pero worth it naman yan para sa pamilya ko. But I do believe that we only have one life to live. And at the end of our life, there's no reincarnation. It's not like pag masama kang tao, you become a dog. Or you become like an ipis, or you become like a pig, right? I mean, okay lang yan eh. Yumaman ka this life, tapos next life, baboy ka. No problem. The danger there is maybe you're selling yourself, your identity, your integrity, your character short by selling out at a very low price. Kasi sometimes we forget na the character we have is priceless. Kahit na mahirap ka, kahit na ganito ka lang posisyon sa company mo, pag hindi ka mabili, mahal ka. Pero kunyari, ang offer sa'yo, 50 million pesos, yun yung value mo na 50 million, nabibili ka na eh, right? So, it's really, we respect people not because how wealthy he is. People are respected because of what they do, even when nobody's looking, and the impact he gives to others, even though there's nothing in it for him. Kasi
Gusto
it's
ko yung
very
sinabi
easy
ni...
for people, 'di ba, na
Correct.
gagawa ka kasi meron kang kapalit. Ang pinakamahal na serbisyo ay yung walang kapalit na kusa galing lang sa puso natin, na binibigay natin. Kasi when that happens, that's true service. And I think for many HRs, ang dapat nating habulin hindi lang yung sahod, pero yung true service. Because that is what people remember. A lot of people say, why will you kill yourself or sacrifice yourself for your job? The job is who you are eh. 'Di ba? So, even if you're an HR lang, but you do it very well, the impact you make for everybody else is immense. Hindi yan mabibili. And I remind everyone na sana wag nilang bentahin ang sarili nila sa maliit na halaga kasi sobrang liit lang ang ilang milyon. Mauubos din yan. 'Di ba? Tsaka mamaya mga anak mo makakarma ka. I'd like to greet Madeline Camilo Marasigan, looking forward to learning from one of the country's most awesome guru in people development. Cheers, Sir Eric. Marian Serrano Villanueva is watching from Pasig City. Marvin Vajardo is very proud of his mentor, Sir Eric. He's from Cainta. Sabi niya, and then Marian Serrano Villanueva says, money is not everything. Mostly it's your character and how you deal with people and how you make them feel after engagement with them that matters the most. Rana, back to you.
Rona, ano lang
Ayan,
I just want to highlight yung sinabi ni Mentor Tina. You cannot put a peso value on one's own integrity, di ba?
correct.
Talagang yun eh. You cannot buy, no one can buy your pure character and your integrity. So we should always
Correct.
be reminded of that kasi even in HR, marami rin ako nakikilalang na medyo nadilib ko ng landas, yung mga tipong pumipikit na lang mga mata nila pag involved na yung involved
Pera
na yung
na.
upper management, pag pera na. We should always
Oo.
stand up for what is all right. And we have to be reminded that whatever actions that we do, our people will we were a mirror kasi the people under us will also reflect who we are as a leader. Kung mandaraya tayo, mandarambong tayo, wala tayong integrity, the people that we are managing will also do that, and they will also be the same thing once they become leaders. So
Ayan. True ka dyan, Coach Dar and Mentor Tina. So, bilang mga HR, tatandaan po natin yan. Isa po sa mga pinanghahawakan talaga natin is yung integrity natin. Yung pangalan natin, napaka-importante sa atin yan ng mga HR. So, iingatan po natin yan. Okay. So, kung meron po tayong wow quote for the week, syempre meron din po tayong HR question for the week. At ang matunog na question sa Philippines HR Group: can an employee immediately resign based on self-diagnosed depression and anxiety? What are your thoughts, Mentor Tina?
They can definitely resign, but the company can still oblige them to return and render 30 days notice. I'd also like to warn employees who are so loose in diagnosing themselves to have depression and anxiety. Number one, kasi this depression and anxiety are really mental health sickness disease.
Correct.
It's really true. Some people cannot operate because they have depression and anxiety. For you to just ha- diagnose yourself without any clinical psychologist taking a look at you is a disservice to those with real depression and anxiety. 'Di ba? Kawawa naman yung totoo kung ikaw hindi masyado, right? That's one. Number two, don't forget that the world, especially if you live in a very niche, if you work in a niche environment, it's very small. Okay? People hire employees for reliability. When you immediately resign for a reason that is convenient for you today, it might bite you in the butt in the future when you want to enter an employment with somebody else. And you did so in such a way that was so unprofessional that people will not hire you because of how you exited your previous employment. Nagets niyo? So, be very careful because people do talk. The more dramatic, the more maarte yung exit mo, the more na walang basis, the more people will remember you and talk about you to the point that it might sabotage you the next time you look for employment elsewhere. Number three, I think if you have depression and anxiety, the first thing you should do is to see a licensed specialist. If you are sick, you don't go to a manghihilot or you don't go to your neighbor. You go to a doctor. You get yourself diagnosed. You have yourself checked immediately. Right? Kasi baka meron silang ipaprescribe sa'yo, meron silang treatment na ibibigay sa'yo. Maybe your depression is because of something else that's not mental. It might be physical, right? So it's very important for you to see a licensed doctor immediately, right? And have that piece of paper that is so irrefutable that the employer has no choice but to graciously allow you to resign without rendering 30-day period. But if you're going to use quote and unquote depression and anxiety, patapon lang ng sabi na walang papel or hindi man lang accredited, para lang makatakas ng 30-day notice period, it's really a reflection of yourself. And trust me, there will be HR recruiters who will ask you, paano ka nag-exit sa last company mo? Pag sinabi mo na hindi ka nag-exit ng 30 days, I promise you the next question will be, bakit? Ba't di ka nag-exit? And then you will tell me, kasi sinabi ko sa boss ko, I was depressed and anxious. Kaya, hindi ako makaka-render ng 30 days. Hindi na ako nakapag-turn over. Tapos, ang next question ko is, may papel ka ba? Pag sinabi mo, hindi, chances are I won't hire you. And I'm sure I am not alone. Make your exit to the point that no matter who hears about it, they will think positively of you. They will never think that you are unprofessional because you can do it. 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years ka na nagtatrabaho doon. 30 days na lang nababayaran ka pa, hindi mo pa gagawin. Hindi naman libre yan eh, hindi ba? May bayad naman. So kung natiis mo naman yung boss mo ng ilang taon, sana matiis mo lang naman ng 22 to 26 days. Nabayad ka naman. Kung gusto mo, huwag mong kausapin boss mo, pwede naman eh. Pero tapusin mo pa rin because how you act on your last days is a very important reminder how you should act on your next relationships. 'Di ba? Make it sa life and sa love and in relationships, always exit gracefully because people will always remember how you left them. O, diba? Kayo po, Coach Darwin and Mentor Rona.
Ako, without being controversial, first, I would like to acknowledge that mental health is something that we've seen over the past years, especially during the pandemic, na talagang it's real. It's something that is happening. A lot of people are being affected. um, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, lalo na nung pandemic and post-pandemic. Totoo naman that there's a great concern for depression and anxiety and mental health issues. What I just like to point out is yung sinabi ni Mentor Tina na you cannot self-diagnose kasi you're not a doctor, you're not a psychiatrist. You cannot tell na itong nararamdaman ko um, would trigger me to stop working immediately and drop all the responsibilities that I have in the company or in the organization. You have to remember your position, however big or small your position is in the entire organization, it's critical. Pag nawala ka, ano yan, domino effect yan. May mga office mates ka na kailangan mag-overtime para lang makuha yung trabaho iiwan mo and whatnot. But I think we also have to look into what's happening right now in social media in the world. Kasi I think we're forgetting the fact that there is something called grit. 'Di ba? Ito yung nung mga panahon natin, Mentor Tina, Mentor Rona, ito yung pag sinabing grit, ito yung ano ba to? Tatag ng sikmura, 'di ba? Tatag ng
Yes.
sikmura sa mga mga events or situation na kahit na alam mong napakahirap, kakayanin mo kasi meron kang tatag ng loob at tatag ng sikmura. Unfortunately, because of social media, some people or a majority of the new generations are being influenced that kada kibot there's an opportunity for you to say, I'm depressed and I'm experiencing anxiety. Sabi nga ni Mentor Tina kanina, baka naman hindi yan psychological. I'll give an example. Anxiety is also caused by sleepless nights. Ikaw itong nagtatrabaho ng 8 hours, pagdating sa bahay, magbababad ng TikTok, magbababad ng telenovela, di ba? And you only have 3 hours of sleep every day when you in fact know that you have work the following day. So bababa yung resistensya mo, bababa yung capability mo to think well, yung emotional quotient mo maaapektuhan din. So that's where I'm coming from. Look into ano ba yung reason bakit ko to na nararamdaman. Grit is very important in terms of you growing your career because without grit, you won't be able to um, face and be able to triumph on difficult situations and challenges. Sabi ko nga, balik tayo, I definitely am agreeable that mental health issues is something that our society as a whole is experiencing right now. But for those people, for those individuals who would use the anxiety, depression card for them to be an excuse for them to leave an organization, even leave a relationship. Kasi your employer is a relationship with you eh, 'di ba? Kaya employer-employee relationship eh. Paano rin yung you have a relationship with your partner, 'di ba? Hindi mo pwedeng sabihing depressed ako ngayon, makikipaghiwalay ako sa iyo. Hindi naman ganoon, 'di ba? You have to identify where is it coming from. Is it justifiable? Seek help. That's the most important thing na minention kanina ni Mentor Tina. You need to seek help, expert help to be able to justify whatever actions you will be doing kasi that would enable you to be better. Kasi if you really have depression and anxiety and you will just immediately go on AWOL, it's a vicious cycle. Uulitin mo lang yan sa next employer mo. Kasi you do not have the capacity to face challenges and hard situations head on. Lagi mo na lang gagamitin yung depression anxiety card, 'di ba? And again, I'm not saying that's not true or whatnot, but what I'm saying is seek help, seek um expert help for you to be able to help yourself. And please, look into grit. Kasi, that's where people mature and that's where we evolve both as a leader and as a professional. That's my take on it. How about you, Mentor Rona?
Unahin ko muna yung ating question talaga. Is it possible to resign immediately if you have self-diagnosed depression and anxiety? The general answer is no. Okay? Self-diagnosed 'yan. Ikaw lang ang nagsabi niyan. So walang outside person, authority, medical health professional na nagsabi na hindi ka na talaga fit to work. Okay? Absent of that, you have to render the 30 days. Okay? Kahit pa sabihin natin, eh kasi yung ano, yung boss ko pag nakikita ko siya na ano na ako, natataranta na kagad ako.
Nasusuka na daw siya pag nakikita
Nasusuka
yung
na
boss niya.
ako. Excuse me, nasusuka na ako, hindi ko na kaya, nag-hyperventilate ako. Have yourself checked. Okay, if you're experiencing that, have yourself checked. That's one. Now, there are of course certain situations na inaalaw ng ating labor code, yung immediate resignation, like inhumane treatment, yung talagang hindi na makataong pagtuturing sa'yo no, yung immediate head, if there's already a threat to you or your family, yung mga ganong bagay, yan, pwede kayo mag-immediate resignation. Walang problema. Okay, but you need to make sure na pag kinontest yan, meron kayong pwedeng ipakita na this is the reason why ako nag-immediate resignation. At pwede, if it comes to a point that you would want to take it to DOLE, meron kayong documentation or anything that would justify the immediate resignation. So, that's the answer for the question of this week. Now, when it comes to mental health, speaking as someone who has had challenges with mental health, please do not self-diagnose. Just because you cannot take the pressure ng sinisigawan ka, pinapagalitan ka o kung ano pa man, doesn't mean na you have anxiety, you have depression o kung ano pa man. The only sure way that you can say that you have all of these mental health disorders or any of these mental health disorders is to get yourself checked by a licensed psychologist or a licensed psychiatrist. Okay? And they will tell you what you need to do. It is usually, unless it is a very, very, very severe case, usually your psychologist and your psychiatrist would create a treatment plan for you that would also involve how you should handle your work. So, bibigyan ka niyan, ano yung mga accommodations na pwede mong hingin sa boss mo. And we already have the mental health uh, policy in place. We already have yung mental health in the workplace in place that allows us to actually ask for accommodations from our employers para mas masuportahan tayo do sa ating mental health journey. Yung mental health kasi, yung mga mental health disorders, mental health conditions, hindi yan basta-basta nawawala. Just because you have anxiety or you were diagnosed with anxiety and you were given medicines for it doesn't mean that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you won't have it. The medicines are only there to control the symptoms, the feelings that you have, yung kung out of control by emotions mo, it only helps with that. Doesn't mean na 10 years, 15 years from now, mawawala yun. So, it's a continuous process. So kung kayo ay nade-depress lang, nalulungkot lang kayo, dahil lang sa one time nasigawan ka nung boss mo kasi ang dami palang mali nung ginawa mo, hindi ibig sabihin nun meron kayong anxiety or depression. Please be very careful with the use of those words. Kasi tulad nga ng sinabi ni Mentor Tina at ni Coach Darwin, it's a disservice to those people who are actually diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Depression is already being treated as something na kaartehan lang yan, because a lot of people usually claim that they have depression even though they don't. So, wag nating gawin na umabot siya sa punto na hindi na naman mabibigyan ng tamang pansin yung mental health just because everyone's claiming they have this, they have that. I saw it in TikTok, feeling ko ganito ko. One, don't do self-diagnosis. Go to a medical or a mental health professional. Have yourself checked. Let them help you work through it. Let your boss know. Let the people working with you know so that they can also help you manage the work that you do and the environment that you are in. And if things get super hindi na talaga kaya, and even if you tried everything and you tried building your grit at hindi na talaga kaya, then it might be time to look for a different environment. One where you can actually be more comfortable. Kasi tatandaan natin sa HR, hindi ito madaling trabaho. nagiging madali lang siya 'pag admin side. Kasi admin side lang yun, eh, paperworks lang yun. But a true HR, an HR who is involved in strategies and all of this, it's not an easy job. It takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of emotional intelligence. And if you don't have that or you cannot quickly develop that, you will have a hard time. So yung grit malakas dapat dito. Grit, integrity, ang mga bagay na yan, kailangan meron ka niyan sa HR. Ayan. Okay. Pagpasensyahan na, pag-overshare.
No
Okay po.
problem. So,
Okay.
our next is actually ito yung just an announcement since we're talking about mental health. We have a partnership and we're very proud to announce our partnership with Infinite Care. Infinite Care is a global organization that provides mental health to employees. And now, Infinite Care is a partner of the Philippines HR Group. And with this partnership, Infinite Care will provide mental health support through their platform, their application, to all of the Philippines Asia Group members and even their families in giving them access to personalized self-care tools and resources via chat helpline. Libre po yan, virtual sessions with licensed counselors and psychologists and coaches. If you want also a psychological meeting with a certified licensed psychologist one-on-one, maaari nyo pong gamitin yan. It's a benefit from the Philippines HR Group. And we actually have someone from Infinite Care who will be discussing more about this particular partnership, and we'll also be talking about keeping your sanity. It's a practical self-care strategies for HR professionals. Ito yung topic na gusto natin eh. If HR takes care of the employees, who takes care of HR? So I'm very happy to introduce to you Ms. Shine Mangalubnan. Shine is a licensed counselor and the head of clinical care of Infinite Care. Shine has extensive experience in workplace counseling with years of training, consulting, counseling employees through employee assistance program. Shine has also held roles in guidance and counseling as taught psychology at Enderon colleges and entrepreneur schools of Asia. She also have counseling psychologist at the Women's Crisis Center, where she conducted crisis intervention counseling for women and children who were victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. She holds a master's degree in psychology, major in guidance counseling, and is currently completing her doctorate degree in psychology for family studies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce to you Ms. Shine Mangulubnan. Shine,
Thank
hello.
you, Coach Darwin. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes po.
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear you
fine.
very
Thank you.
well.
I liked how I was just listening to your discussion earlier, about the challenges of being in HR, the question that was raised earlier on whether they can immediately resign. That is something that we also at Infinite Care get a lot from our partner companies. Okay.
Okay, Shine,
So,
we'll give
yeah,
you the next 45 to 60 minutes for you to
sure.
discuss about the topic, taking care of HR, keeping
Mm-hmm.
HR sane, to practical
Mm-hmm.
tips. And also, please don't forget to inform our audience. We have dozens of audience right now that would like to understand ano ba yung partnership between Infinite Care and Philippines
Mm-hmm.
HR Group, paano ba nila magagamit ito at ano yung mga benefit. Okay? So we'll give you the
All
floor,
right.
Shine.
Thank you, Coach Darwin. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening. Thank you for being with us this afternoon on a Sunday. It's okay to be spending time on to having you guys here in this webinar because I expect that we will be having a very intimate conversation and interesting conversation as HR, right? The role of HR really has changed over time. No? So we'll talk about that. Again, I'm Shine Mangulabnan. I'm at the head of clinical care for Infinite Care. Later on, I'll also give you an overview of what Infinite Care does, who we are, and how can we help you and your companies. Okay, so as HR, like what I said, I was listening to our coaches earlier. The role of HR is becoming more complex than ever, right? The focus is not just on personal management. It's no longer just on personal management or administrative tasks, right? Especially during the pandemic, HR became the frontliners of their companies, and all forward thinking HR practitioners, HR departments now thrive to manage employee engagement and well-being. Thus, wellness really becomes a big factor also, right? And in order to be able to cultivate a strong company culture, right, HR also helps employees with issues that they may encounter, personal issues that they may encounter. No? Para kanina yung question on depression, on question on anxiety, then it becomes a more challenging job of being in HR. So today, we will talk about why. Because having said all the tasks, having mentioned the responsibilities of being in HR, what are the signs of being burned out in HR? How can you recover from burnout? And then how can you truly rest and recharge? What are the things that you can really do in order for you to say, "No, okay, I've recharged." Okay, so I'll show you this quickly. This is just a checklist. Okay, again, this checklist is also not an assessment. This will not, like kanina, when you self-diagnose, it's really a no-no, right? Because apart from we just drive ourselves anxious when we self-diagnose, we're also not allowing ourselves to really get into the concern and know more about what's happening with us. So best to, yes, reach out to a mental health practitioner, reach out to your um, partner EAP if you have already. Okay, so this is the burnout checklist. I hope you can see it. It's not too small for anyone using their screens or their phone. So as HR, it's also your duty to be able to provide appropriate resources, right, to your employees, especially those who are struggling with mental health. That's why you have your EAP partners, you have us at Infinite Care, so that we can help educate leadership. Really, it's leadership first, help leadership, discuss about what are the best practices when it comes to mental health, right? What is clear? What are the rules and the guidelines on mental health to have clarity on your mental health policies, for example. So this is the burnout checklist. You can just browse through it. You can say, okay, sometimes some of these things are applicable to me. Yung iba naman, maybe not. And why am I doing this? This is just for self-awareness. If you've checked all, then thank you for being aware that you're experiencing all these things. Thus, we need to be able to be more conscious, more intentional on how we should be able to help ourselves, diba? All right, so I'll go to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about what burnout is all about. We usually hear this all the time, but when we talk about burnout, it specifically refers to the phenomena in at work, no, occupational context, and it should not be used to describe experiences in other areas of life. In short, burnout is more on it's always related to work. When we say I'm burnt out, like I don't know if you have younger those of you who are parents or you have mga pamangkins, no, you probably hear them say, "Oh, I'm burnt out," right? Or I'm stressed. Burnout has a more delicate underlying reason, right? So it's really connected also to excessive and prolonged stress, right? So some characteristics are when you feel like your energy is depleted, you're consistently feeling exhausted, there is increased mental distance from your job. You seem to not want to open your laptop. You seem to not want to go to work. And it's been a consistent thought in your head, right? That can be a sign of burnout. Another one would be you have reduced sense of professional competence. Before you used to take your job with so much enthusiasm, you feel like I can handle this. I'm good at what I'm doing. I understand what I'm doing. And then suddenly I don't have the same enthusiasm anymore. Right? It's okay sometimes to feel like, I'm not so motivated. I'm looking forward to a long vacation, or something has happened in your life that actually made you feel sad, that actually made you feel, that actually made you question your worth. Okay lang paminsan-minsan yon. But when it prolongs, when you feel like it's a consistent cycle with you, then you know that there is something going on. You know that that could be burnout. Okay? Now, what causes, as HR, we'll get into this, what causes burnout for HR professionals? Like what I said, burnout is very much related to work. Burnout is also the result of chronic stress in the workplace. So, in general, employees do experience stress when we are overworked, we're under supported, we feel like we're not being listened to, or when we feel like we have to navigate high pressure situations at work, right? So, as HR professional, though, you face different unique challenges, right? And the demands of these challenges can result to burnout. What are these reasons? When you know that it's your ability, it's your task as HR to guide other people through their problems. You want to be able to support them with the benefits that's needed for them. Especially during the pandemic, I've talked to a lot of HR practitioners that they're also getting so anxious, they're getting so burnt out because sila yung frontliners eh. Sila yung nakakaalam sa first information na, uy, somebody passed away in this department. So it does play a very significant role for them. It does affect them also in different ways. It can be their own triggers, right? When you know that continuously you put others first because it is your task, it is your job, right? At saka hindi lang yan, the compassion, no? The compassion sa ginagawa mo. No, gusto mo makatulong ng iba. If it's continually andyan na you put others first, tapos paano ka naman, hindi mo na nababalanse yung work at saka yung personal life mo, then that causes burnout. Right? If you fail to manage also most or all of the pandemic related disruptions, right? So earlier I was telling Coach Darwin no, na a lot of people are still experiencing COVID. So it's lesser siguro yung effect, yung symptoms, but that can still cause people to not go to work, right? It causes people to be absent. So you also as HR have to manage that. Ano na ba to? How can we completely be COVID free? Is there such a thing as being COVID free? Okay, another cause also would be your team might be short staffed, right? HR has to manage attrition. HR has to manage recruitment, no? So if that is an urgent need and you have to make sure that um you hire a certain number of people at a certain time, the demand for that can be very challenging. Okay? And of course, acting as a liaison between employers and employee, making sure that both parties are happy, right? Having to think of solutions, execute difficult conversations can very much wear you out. All right? So, how do we recover? I'm pretty sure medyo familiar tayo dun sa mga naging ano natin, no? Familiar tayo dun sa mga na-mention ko kanina, no? If you can raise your hand, sino-sino sa inyo has been through it some ways, one way or another, no? Nakaka-relate tayo dun sa task or sa causes why burnout happens. So how can we recover burnout as HR professionals, as you guys? So number one is we need to be honest with ourselves. Okay? Honesty is the very first, honesty and acceptance actually are the first two steps of understanding that, oops, there is something wrong. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about these things. No? Even if you feel like I'm a leader, I'm in HR, I shouldn't accept these things. I shouldn't talk about these things. But gone are the days that we don't talk about these things. No, the pandemic also actually made us more aware about mental health. And we have to take this opportunity right now to talk about it, to not have different interpretations on what mental health is, and to really get help that we need. What is the help? What is it? And it begins with being honest with ourselves. If there is something that is not okay with you need to be able to take some time to process it. We're so used, we lived in a society, no, 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 I have to be okay. I have to be resilient. Like a while ago, right? We've talked about grit. Yes, it is crucial to be resilient. It is crucial to have that ability to get back up. But I tell you, in my years of working with different companies, right? In my years of working with different EAP companies also, when you do not have the ability to accept within yourself that, oops, there's something wrong, and you're just gonna shrug it off, it's going to come back. And that's why breakdowns happen. That's why the ability to be not motivated also happens. The ability to stop wanting to do things, wanting to not work anymore, that happens. No, because kulang tayo dun sa, sige, isipin ko muna, ano bang talaga nangyayari sa akin? Isipin ko muna, bakit ba ako nasaktan? Bakit ba ako pagod na pagod? No? Kung sinigawan ka, for example, ng boss mo, isipin mo, wow, bakit niya nga ginawa yun? Instead of telling yourself that, no, 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 that's nothing. Or, eto, toxic positivity, wala yun. Di ko talaga kasalanan yun, siya yun. Pwede din yung toxic positivity. Or understanding, oops, where was that coming from? And how did I feel? Right? You don't have to justify the action of the other person because whether we like it or not, shouting at other people, having a nasty attitude towards others is a no-no. And we shouldn't normalize things like that. No, we should be able to say, oops, I don't like what I'm hearing. I don't like the tone. I think we can talk about things in a respectful manner. When I talk to our partners in HR also, we make sure that this is something that's clear. We have to be able to set boundaries so that we are also capable of telling others that, I'm not feeling well. This is not something that I'm comfortable talking about. So be honest with yourself and with your team. Let us speak honestly about how we really feel. At Infinite Care, we're a small team, but most of us have such diverse backgrounds. Like I am from the clinical care team. My background in psychology is also very different from the others. But we make it a point that we're honest with each other when we have our check-in sessions. For example, on Mondays, we ask each other, "How was your weekend? How did it go?" Right? We go beyond talking about just work because that is actually one way to get to know people. Having the compassion to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" Right? So when you get the ability to ask that towards others, it's also easier for you to be honest na hindi nga ako okay. You don't have to get into details. When you tell your team, I'm not feeling okay, I'm dealing with something, just give me some time. That's you being honest. And there's no need to be scared to talk about these things. There's no need really to be afraid to say, okay, time out muna. No, because you have to be honest with how you're feeling. And honesty may not come easy, right? It's never gonna come out easy. We're so used to like social media, TikTok, everything that we see, it's usually the positive stuff, no? We don't want toxic. Ayoko yan kasi toxic yan. Ayoko yan kasi, of course, you can filter those things, but filtering our emotions also in such a way that we need to be able to have awareness is the way to do it. Being aware with how we feel, not justifying how we feel, but just completely and 100% saying, I'm not okay, is the beginning of self awareness, right? So, next, how? Prioritize your time. Who can relate, no? Sino ba sa inyo ang madali lang ba mag-say no? Right? Is it easy to say no? Of course not, no? That's why yung boundaries, that's very important. Being intentional, not to work on days that you're really not assigned to work. Being able to say that if you receive an email at 4:50 on a Friday, you really have to respond to that email. Is it life and death or life diba, life threatening? If it is, go ahead, pick up the phone, respond. But do you know that some emails, some work-related stuff can also wait until the next workday? Sometimes the way we respond to stress is also up to us. Being able to put in boundaries, being able to say, oops, this is my time, right? I want to be able to do things that are crucial to me, that it's important for me, my family, and my mental health on weekends, then do that, right? So if you feel like I cannot step out away from work, I cannot step away from work, make sure I don't like work-life balance. I'm sorry. I don't like the I know when I started with the work-life balance, EAP programs of companies, I said, no, there's no such thing as being able to balance 100%. You're a mom, you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of a number of people, you're making sure that your companies are renewing, right? Renewing their contracts with you. Paano ang work-life balance? But I'd like to call it as work-life integration. So when I joined Infinite Care, I made sure that it's work-life integration. You integrate, right? You integrate work and life together. You make sure that it is something that's meaningful to you. Like kaya yung kanina, diba? Your work has to be meaningful so that you don't feel like what you do away from the things you love is making you feel pagod, is making you feel like, oh, kailangan lang naman talaga. No? So integrate it. Integrate it in such a way na, okay, pag alam kong work time is ganito, di ba? Uh, 8 to 5, for example. So, anong gagawin ko pagdating ng 5? No? Ano ang mga bagay na importante sa akin pagdating ng 5? 5 o'clock. Do I turn off my laptop? Do I make sure that when they contact me, ano lang ba yung mga bagay na pwede nila nga ako makontak about? So like in my case, all the critical cases from our company, our partner companies, they come to me. So okay lang, they can call me beyond my working hours. No? They can call me kahit madaling araw kung may critical case sa kumpanya because that's me integrating it. Parte na siya ng buhay ko. And also, I have the I am being intentional. No, sige, hindi ako masistress kasi part ito ng work ko. Okay? So that's prioritizing also your work and your time. Now, making sure that you're taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. I like what Coach Darwin said a while ago. Alam mo na nga kailangan mo matulog. Alam mo na nga kailangan mo magpahinga at a certain time. Pero if you push yourself to watch all your K-drama because it's so addictive, you know you're not being conscious and you're not respecting your body dun sa kinakailangan mo. Hindi mo nire-respeto yung pahinga mo. So tama yon. Instead of doing TikTok, when you know you're tired, listen to your body. Take care of yourself in all other aspects. The way you eat is very important. Make sure you eat on time. I always tell this to everybody when it's break time, when it's lunchtime, be deliberate with that. No, hindi yung tipong kumakain ka sa desk mo. 1 hour lang din naman kung isipin mo, ang bilis lang ng 1 hour, isipin nyo, no? But make sure you're intentional. Pag kumakain kayo, be intentional. Huwag kayong magtelepono. Huwag kayong mag-answer ng email. Just focus on your food. Okay? That is making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Also, making sure you're eating well and exercising. Exercising, no, going out of the house, doing your errands, walking. Kung hindi mo naman kailangang mag-commute, hindi mo kailangang magsasakyan, walk. Because movement is very crucial. Kaso, no, parang paiba-iba yung weather natin here in Metro Manila. Minsan uulan, minsan mainit. But making sure that may movement. Kahit maglinis ng bahay pag pinapawisan, that is movement. And exercise and mental health is very much linked to each other, right? And remember when we were young, we have PE in school, no? Ngayon ko lang siya, hindi naman ngayon, nung nagpa-practice na ako ng profession ko, doon ko lang siya naintindihan na kaya pala may PE talaga. Kasi it's very much connected to mental health. Exercise is really connected to mental health because the more you move, the more you sweat, Your brain, your body is your brain produces serotonin, the hormones that's responsible for being happy, right? So you need to move, you need to sweat, right? Hindi naman kailangan mag-gym ka. Pwede namang sa bahay mag-exercise, pwede namang maglakad ka ng pet mo, maglinis ka ng banyo, maglinis ka ng bahay. A lot of possibilities, a lot of other ways to do that. All right? Now, how do you also prevent burnout? Right? As an HR professional, the good news is burnout is preventable. Now, however, it takes conscious effort and it takes a strong support system. You need to have that, especially if you're an HR leader. Your workplace culture, your policies, they also have the highest impact on your potential for burnout. Okay? But syempre, like what I said, it's preventable. That's why there are also concrete steps. Setting boundaries at work. I said a while ago, you need to be able to take care of yourself holistically. And one way to do that is making sure you know your boundaries. Personal boundaries muna. But at work, in terms of your job as HR, work on modeling a behavior that you want your employees, that you want your team to display, right? Make sure that you're deliberate on your breaks. No, if it's leave, kailangan mag-leave, kailangan magpahinga, do that. Make sure it's also clear with your team that I won't be able to answer on these days, right? Assign somebody else to take care of that on days when you are on leave. You have to be deliberate para naman your team, your colleagues will see na, ganito pala talaga, right? Dapat ine-erase na natin paunti-unti yung culture na dapat busy tayo because we always relate success with being busy. No, wala na siya eh. You know, when you listen to Adam Grant, when you talk about Brené Brown, talking about resilience and talking about making sure that we're taking care of the teams that we lead, ang una talagang mag-spark, ang una talagang pag-usapan ay yung boundaries. Like what I said, you log off at a certain time. You make sure that you refrain from answering emails or calls pag hindi naman work hours. Diba? Okay. And we also need to be able to adjust our expectations, right? Part of preventing burnout is becoming more realistic about your personal goals, your personal responsibilities at work. Ano ba ang mga goal mo? Ano ba as an HR practitioner, what do you want to get out in the first few quarters of your task, or first quarter of your role, for example? Make sure you also have a list, no, of how much your work week is dedicated for. Kung ito lang yung kaya mo for this week, then let it be so that you don't feel overwhelmed, you don't feel anxious, right? Because if you're regularly working overtime or always playing, o sige, catch up ko na lang to, no? You will feel overwhelmed, you will feel burned out. So, kailangan talagang mag-change na ng expectations. Ano lang ba ang kaya kong matapos? Ano ang kaya matapos ng team within this time? So, one way to do that also is be clear with your leaders, be clear with your bosses. Kailan nyo po kailangan to? Anong goal nito? Have clarity with the things that you need to do so that you don't feel burnout, you don't feel overworked. Na sige, kasi minsan ang dami mong ginagawa. Ano ba talaga ang priority? Lahat ba yan kailangan? ASAP? Most likely, it's not. So have conversations, no? Be clear so that you can also adjust your expectation. You have to know when it's realistic, right, to achieve a certain output, when you can achieve something out of a deliverable, when is it needed, okay? So that hindi ka overwhelmed, hindi mo mamadaliin lahat. Because most likely, pag patong-patong na yan, hindi ka makakaisip ng maayos. Mahihirapan ka din. No? Mahihirapan ka rin i-put out lahat ng deliverables mo at the same time. Know when it's realistic to achieve your work that's needed. Okay? Make sure that you pick your battles, you pick your stressors also. All right? Next is to be able to diversify your workload or your workday. Knowing that you can switch temporarily your responsibilities. Parang pagod na ako kaka-interview eh. Ano kayang pwede kong gawin para hindi ko ma-feel na ma-burnout to? Ask for help from your colleagues, right? If you feel like, it's overwhelming na kasi lagi na lang ito day in and day out yung ginagawa ko. Ano sa organization, ano sa department yung pwede mong ma-shift, pwede mong lagyan ng suggestion, pwede mong ayusin para to prevent feeling like it's always a routine. Minsan nakakasuka na if you've been doing it for 10 years, right? If there are positions that are, open for you to apply within the company internally, and you feel like, okay, mga 5 years of experience in HR, gusto ko namang mag-focus sa well-being, gusto ko namang mag-focus on benefits lang, no? Be vocal about this. Talk about it with your bosses. Important that you also determine what you need. Okay? And then ask for help. No, it's never, we should never be ashamed to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say, oops, ang dami ko nang nasa plato ko. No? And we shouldn't put down other people also when they feel this way. Instead, we say, okay, sige, what do you need? Where can we need? We have to normalize conversations in our company. So, oops, sige, anong kailangan mo? And hindi tayo dapat natatakot na sabihin, ito kasi ang kailangan ko ngayon. Medyo na-overwhelm ako. Right? So, that's also one way to be able to have that culture of, a safe space at work. And that's what we all want, right? To be able to be safe and say, oops, I'm overwhelmed. This is not something that I'm not in a pretty good place right now, right? We have to have conversations like that. And it starts with the leadership. It starts with people in HR also. All right. So I'll be opening the floor for questions also, right? You can just type it in. Coach Darwin can also talk to us, ask the questions. But while you're preparing your questions, I'd like to talk a bit about Infinite Care. What we do at Infinite Care, it's pretty much we talk about the mental health continuum because we all constantly move along the continuum, right? We have different needs at different times. No? So uniquely, here at Infinite Care, we offer support at all points on the continuum. As much as possible, we want you to be able to thrive and to excel, right? And what else do we do? We have different kinds of care at different times. Some of you may have this in your companies already, but what makes us very unique at Infinite Care, because we're very tech savvy, we're very tech driven, we have different ways to cope, learn, and adapt. So we make sure that this is something, mental health is something that's open to everybody, that's easy to use, right? So we provide comprehensive care through our digital platform. So members have the option to communicate with our Infinite Care chat platform for 24/7, or you can also book your coaching or counseling services through your app or through email. So, di ba, minadali namin, ginawa namin mas comfortable for everybody to ask for help, no, when it comes to mental health. All right. What else? We have the mental well-being assessment also that everybody can take once you're our partner. And then we do also have the check-in and progress tracking, which is in the app. And we also have the self-care tools and resources. So instead of Googling, right? Instead of going to Mr. Google and say, what is this I'm feeling? It's already there in your self-care tools and resources in the app also. We have the chat helpline. Like what I said, it's 24/7. This is manned by psychology-trained individuals. They can ask about mental health related stuff. They can ask about what are their symptoms, how can we ask help. And then we also have the virtual coaching and counseling, right? You get to book a 60-minute session with any of our licensed counselors via the web or mobile app. Okay, our counselors and coaches are experienced in counseling for anxiety, depression, trauma, different mood disorders, work-related concerns, career-related concerns, and all sessions are conducted virtually. but with the assurance of confidentiality and security. Now, you might be asking, how is our partnership with Philippine HR Group? This is how it goes. All members, right? All the members of HR um, with Philippine HR Group will have access to the Infinite Care app. It's 24/7. It's self-care, has self-care tools and resources, like what I've mentioned earlier, how you can reach out to us. We have our well-being assessment. And then we also have our monthly mental health talk, similar to what we're doing right now, our mental health workshops. For counseling and coaching, it will be at your own expense at a discounted rate of 2,375 per session. No? So there is a 5% discount if you are a member of the Philippine HR Group. Okay, so I'll stop talking. I'll see if you have questions.
There's a question here.
Darwin, go ahead.
Ryan, help. My boss is high strung. I know he's into so much pressure, but as you've said, he didn't have normal conversations with most of the employees. How can we tell him that he needed to lighten up without him directing his frustrations on me or on the team? So,
Thank
how can
you.
one person be able to inform his boss, his managers, the company owner na the actions is already affecting the team, the 'di ba? The way the boss thinks, the boss actions, 'di ba? It's no longer healthy for the whole
Mhm,
organization.
mhm. Thank you. First, it may be very difficult to talk to your boss right then and there kasi na-mention mo nga, baka he's going through a lot also. But yung pagiging high strung, that could also be a personality thing, no? It could be a personality thing or it could be a person's coping mechanism. Whatever it is, um, we just have to let it be. So ang focus natin is how to be able to have that conversation. Now, if you don't have the check-in sessions with your boss, it may be difficult to start it at this point. But it's still not too late. You can always ask your boss for that one-on-one time. Tell your boss, have the clarity that I need to talk to you about something. And do not be afraid. No, do not be afraid to say that, whenever this happens, it becomes offensive on my end. We are all adults. Gone are the days. I was I've always worked in the corporate setup also, no. And gone are the days na when I started work, iba ang upuan sa cafeteria ng bosses and iba yung, 'di ba?
I've also
Ganon dati.
experienced that. Wala
Yes, right?
aircon yung mga managers, yung mga rank and
Oo.
file walang aircon.
Oo, or iba yung menu nila sa, 'di ba? But a lot of companies right now, wala nang ganun. They're being open na we get to talk to conversations. Companies are even using first name basis because that shows us that we're equal. And gone are the days that we are scared to tell our bosses, na, oops, medyo hurtful siya, medyo offensive siya. Okay, so first, have the courage to tell yourself, oops, masakit to. Na-hurt ako dun sa sinabi niya. Every time na lang, ako yung pagagalitan. So, sit down. Talk to your boss. You don't have to be so dramatic. No? We just have to be professional enough to say, it was offensive when you did this to me. I don't feel that it is right for you to say this tone. Because you have to believe na hindi naman din talaga tama. No? Baka kasi your boss, nobody has ever called him or her out. That's why, okay, sige lang, I'm just gonna keep doing that. Sometimes that's how it is eh. Right? We're humans, we're used to our old habits or most likely negative habits also. So if nobody ever called your boss out, then hindi naisipin na nasaktan na pala siya. So have that conversation. Magkaroon tayo ng courage to say, sir, parang nasasaktan po ako pag ginagawa niyon. And see how it goes. See how that first conversation goes. Of course, you cannot expect naman your boss to say, oh, sorry ha, agad-agad. Meron pa yung magiging defensive siya or ma-offend siya muna. Parang, ba't mo sinabi yun? But sige lang. Ang importante doon, when you say that, you're okay, ganito ha, when you say that, Do not expect na may 360-degree pagbabago. When you say that, you're saying that because you're a human being, it's hurtful, and you want to put it out for clarity. You want to put it out because it's work related. Okay? So we don't expect your boss right away to change the behavior, right away to say na, okay, magbabago na ako para sa'yo. But put it out because that's how you feel, that's what you think is right, and that's what is appropriate at that moment. Having that clarity, having that conversation.
Thank you for
All
that,
right?
Shine. Shine, one more question coming from Mentor Tina.
Go.
Baka meron pa tayo.
No, we have the question from the floor. How do we convince our immediate head to actually give you a subordinate if there's a lot of work that's to be done and hindi na kaya? How can I convince my boss?
Oo, sometimes budget-wise, 'di ba? Ang hirap naman mag-a-add tayo ng isang person. We also have, sometimes we don't know kasi how ROI is taking place, paano na ang business dev part ng kumpanya natin. So madaming questions. But ako, what I would always say, based from my experience also as working in the corporate setup, working in the academe, we have to put out data. We have to have facts na these are all the tasks I need. 'Di ba? And make sure that your request is always backed by data. No, hindi tayo pwede magsabi, oh kasi ito pagod na ako. Oo naman, lahat naman tayo. Pero tingnan natin, saan ba magiging helpful yung kukunin mong additional colleague, um, additional team member mo. Ano ang pwede niyang gawin? You put on the data, you have the facts as to where are the things you need help with, and what are the things that this person can, of course, definitely help you with. So because you have to be concise also kasi maghahanap ka ng tao who will match the things or who will match the criteria, no? Of ano yung kailangan mong additional person sa team. So facts and data. Kasi syempre, kailangan din nating maintindihin budget constraints, kailangan din natin maintindihan. Minsan kasi sasabihin naman ng company, hindi naman nila kasi alam exactly what's going on in your department. So we don't expect then, kailangan ko kasi to now na. Diba, anything na kailangan natin. Alam nyo naman yan, I don't know, for you who are parents here. Diba, tatanungin yung anak ko, what do you need that for? Do you really need that? Diba? Kasi kailangan naman natin maging practical, guys. Okay, so have the data, back it up with data, back it up with real facts. And I'm
Okay.
sure in the end, maiintindihan din naman yan ng company. Diba?
Shane, for your last words, please invite everyone. We have almost 50 people watching live, and I'm sure hundreds more in the replay. Please invite them to how can they be able to download for free
Yes,
the
yes.
application, and how can they access the benefit for Infinite Care and Philippines HR Group.
Yeah, so I hope everybody who's listening here, you can start your mental health journey beginning today. All you have to do, if you see the QR code on the, di ba? Napaka-techy na natin, QR code na tayo lahat. Diba? So if you see it on screen, all you have to do is please just scan it. You can download the app via Google Play or iOS, if App Store if you're using iOS. And I need you to just put in PHR here, the one here. Where is that? I don't have pala a pointer, sorry. Okay. You have to put in your code. So the code is PHRG, all in capital letters, and care. So one word. You can take a screenshot of this so that you will know how to do this on your own when we're done with the webinar, no? So please download it and make sure that you put in your company code. After downloading an app, you will be asked to put this now after upon signing up. So make sure that you put that para makuha nyo lahat ng benefits, no? The 24/7 chat, the content and the resources, and then the invitations, the notifications every time we have our monthly webinars and talks, right? So I hope you take advantage of this, right?
Thank you very much, Shai. And we're really am very grateful. The whole HR Cafe program and the entire Philippine HR Group community is very thankful for this partnership with Infinite Care. And we really encourage our members to download the Infinite Care app and log in to PHRG Care so that they can use the application for free and be able to guide them in their mental health journey. So thank you very
Yeah.
much, Shine, and we'll be
Thank
seeing you
you.
on our next mental health wellness
Of
programs and
course.
months. Thank you,
Thank you,
Shine.
everybody. Thank you, Coach Tina, and thank you so much, Coach Darwin. Have a restful Sunday afternoon.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
God bless.
everybody. God
Bye.
bless. Bye bye.
Now,
Okay.
we will go to our second part of our program, and this would be our another interesting topic coming from one of the seasoned mentors in the HR industry, Mr. Frederick Reyes, FPM, who will be discussing how can HR effectively influence and guide upper management. And without further ado, I would have Mentor Tina properly introduce our much anticipated speaker for this week.
All right, our HR leader expert for the week is Sir Frederick E. Reyes, also known as Eric. He is a highly experienced strategic HR professional who has worked extensively for over 38 years in various HR fields, such as recruitment, talent management, rewards, performance management, training and OD, employee engagement, HR services, and labor relations. He is currently an independent HR consultant and a fellow in people management. He used to work as a president and corporate HR head of Rojas Holdings Incorporated, where he led the HR team of four subsidiaries and plants and the head office. Before this, he worked for more than 15 years in various HR capacities in the Manila Water Company, the East Zone concessionaire of the former MWSS, which was privatized in 1997. The company has won several awards like the PMAP Employer of the Year, Asian Human Capital Awards, and Asian CSR Workplace of the Year when he was there. Eric also worked with the HR group of Globe Telecom, where he was part of the management team that oversaw the changes of Globe from a pure data provider to a full service telecom company. He started his career in Vitarich Corporation as an industrial engineer before shifting his career to HR. He is an honorary co founder of the Human Renewal and Transformational Group of the Philippines, or HRTGP, and he graduated from BS Industrial Engineering from the University of Santo Tomas. He is happily married and they are blessed with four wonderful children. Let's welcome Mr. Frederick Reyes, who will talk about how can HRs effectively influence and guide upper management. Sir, shall we give you the floor for the presentation? Everyone is so excited to hear from you.
Sir Eric, good afternoon.
Muted po.
You're on mute, sir. You're on mute.
Ah,
Yes, yes, there we go.
yeah. Thank you, Coach Darwin. My pleasure and honor to be with PHRG this afternoon. Also, thank you for Tina for inviting me, and of course, my good friend from the telco days, Ray Elbo, for introducing me to Tina
Yes,
many months
definitely.
ago. Many months
We're
ago.
Right.
Thank you.
we're very happy, sir, that again you're here with us. You're one of the most
Mm.
seasoned and expert in HR, pero hindi kayo masyadong, kumbaga, the people need to know who you are so that
Yes.
more people can learn from you po
Engage.
and
Yes.
engage with you. So we'll give you the floor, sir.
Okay, salamat Darwin, salamat Tina. Thank you PHRG. Hindi naman ako new sa PHRG. I've been reading the post of PHRG on a daily basis. In fact, many times I also try to respond if I think I have some value to be added to the table. And for some na medyo marami ng comments, ay nanonood na lang ako kasi I think okay naman yung mga comments doon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And since I've been reading PHRG and familiar naman with the community, I think I chose this topic because it would probably help many people, especially the newbies in HR. Many months ago, there was a post in PHRG that really hit me hard. You know? I think it was an essay written by, of course, a member about the sad plight of the life of a typical HR practitioner. And that post was like over 1,000 times, and there were several comments. Ang dami talaga, no? Ako personally, I also appreciate the post kasi totoo naman yon. Even at my level at Vice President and HR Head, meron pa rin naman mga challenges talagang mabibigat. And I can understand lalo na yung mga bago. But I also think that despite yung bad experiences ng mga taga-HR, I would like to present here that there is a bright future, there is a hope, there is a path na pwede naman punta ng HR of which they will succeed, and at the same time, there's fun, there's goodness naman and grace na nakapaligid naman sa trabaho natin. So allow me to present to you guiding and influencing top management as a topic. I would like to present this, hindi naman sobrang bilis, pero papasadahan natin because I also would like to spend more time with the participants. Thank you for being here to answer their questions kasi baka mas maraming magtanong later on. Okay, so let me start with what are the common HR perceptions, ano? I retired, by the way. I'm 61 years old right now, so marami na rin ako pinagdaanan sa HR. Typically, these are the common HR perceptions, ano? Number one, HR ano yan, timekeeper yan eh. Timekeeper, ano? Yung bandikla ko, merong Kronos machine, timekeeper. HR nagpapasweldo yan, so HR yung payroll master. Nothing wrong with this, ha? Siyempre, pinaka-importante sa employee is sweldo, di ba? Nothing wrong with this. And of course, yung HR, another common perception is they're the benefits administrator. Uutang ako sa SSS, sa pag-ibig, tapos magpa-file ako ng leave, meron na ba kaming uniform. So yung mga yan, typically HR yan, benefits administrator. Punta ka sa HR, sasabihin ng boss natin. And of course, part din ng work ng HR, administrator of disciplinary actions. Yan, sikat na sikat to sa PHRG, NTE. Sikat na sikat yan. NTE, mga sanctions, mga due process. So HR yan, palagi nakataya HR dyan. So masama ba to? Hindi. These are basic work of HR. Importante yan, yung mga common HR work na to. However, hindi dapat limited dito yung trabaho ng HR. Marami pang laman yung mundo na di-discuss natin ngayong hapon kung saan pwedeng pumunta o pumosisyon yung HR. If you're a newcomer who's a newbie in HR, who's listening, makita mo mamaya maraming pwedeng puntahan sa HR, Hindi lang ito mga functions na ito. Second, next slide. Sabi dito, ito naririnig natin palagi. What are the negative comments naman na natatanggap ng HR or the critics that we are receiving? Sabi, number one, yung HR operates in a silo para meron tayong sariling mundo. Di ba? Meron tayong sariling mundo. Wala tayong pakialam sa operations. Wala tayong pakialam. Nagkakagulo na company. Tuloy-tuloy pa din yung ino-organize sa ating party. Di ba? Ang dami na nagre-resign. Wala pa rin tayong pakialam doon kasi we operate in a silo. Naabutan ko yan when I was also in the 90s when I was starting also my HR career. Noon, training ako doon eh. So lahat ng training na gusto ko, nire-recommend ko sa management without any regard to the business needs. Kasi I was operating in a silo. Feeling ko maganda to. Nakakita ko to eh. Maganda tong program na to. Gawin natin. Without even asking line or management, kailangan ba natin ito? So this is one of the common negative comments on HR. Number two, and even ako, hindi ako excuse dito Hindi ako, palagi yan, natatawag din ako dyan. Yung HR, eyes and ears of top management. Spies, Kaya pag nakikita tayo sa meeting, sasabihin ng mga ka-meeting natin, miski pabiro, miski in joke, in jest, ay, nandiyan si Sir Eric, tumahimik tayo. Susumbong tayo niya sa presidente. Di ba? Yan ang perception nila sa HR eh. Taga-sumbong tayo. Tayo yung pet ng management, kaya tayo pinapadala sa company para maganap ng mga mali, parusahan yung mga nagkamali, tanggalin yung mga tao. Minsan ganda ng perception sa atin that we're the eyes and ears of top management. Hindi tayo nakikinig sa mga tao. Instead, puro management yung pinapakinggan natin. That's another negative comment on HR. The other negative comment ng HR is we're too transactional. Yung pinakita ko kanina, yung mga timekeeping, payroll, benefits administration, walang masama doon. In fact, these are what I call core HR functions. Importante yon. Pero minsan masyadong transactional yon. Na masyado nakafocus tayo sa loans, masyado tayo nakafocus sa timekeeping, na because of that, sometimes the perception of management, isang gando na lang ang HR. Pero hindi totoo yun eh. Marami tayong pwedeng gawin pa. And fourth, because of 1, 2, and 3, the 3 bullet points that I mentioned, masasabi din natin dito na minsan yung HR daw of little value to the line. Kasi hindi man lang natin tinatanong yung line, gusto nyo ba to? Importante ba sa inyo to? What is important to us is alam natin kung ano yung pwede na, kung ano yung gusto natin gawin, ano? Kung ano yung gusto natin gawin. Minsan, naalala ko yung advice sa akin ng isang CEO. I am blessed to have very, very good and excellent CEOs in my corporate life. At isa sa sinabi niya, sabi niya, don't buy, this is tawag dito, philosophical, pero magandang advice niya. Sabi niya, don't buy a Mercedes if a Toyota or Kia will do. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Minsan sa HR, hindi tayo nag-iisip about the business requirements. Tira lang tayo ng tira. Kung ano yung gusto natin, ito yung type natin, sige, okay yan. But hindi natin tinitingnan kung naintindihan ba tayo ng line or hindi. Okay? Minsan, I will start this, pero later on, I'll expound on this. There was a time, kasi I'm also fortunate and blessed by the Lord, for having been given the opportunity to work with two of the most reputable and progressive conglomerates in the country. These are the Ayala Group and the MVP Group during my last 33 years, 33 years of my 38 years in of service of rendering service. And during that time, there was an Ayala HR Congress. This was attended by CEOs led by the Zobels, and there was a forum called CEO. It's called the CEO conversation, I think. And tinanong yung mga CEOs about their thinking, their thinking or their perception about HR. And one of the things that they said that sabi nila napaka-negative is that HR speaks like HR. Pag nakuusap nila yung HR, ang binibitawan natin salita, puro HR na yung mga line, hindi maintindihan ano sinasabi natin. So mamaya pag-usapan natin how to correct that situation. Kasi we have the tendency minsan to fall in love with our profession and only with our profession, not knowing that we have a function sa buong business natin. Okay? Let's now proceed to the next slide. Lahat tayo merong philosophy dapat. If you're in HR, dapat meron kang HR philosophy. Before I checked in dito sa PHRG HR Cafe kanina, I was watching, I don't know kung mahilig kayo sa K-drama, I was watching Dr. Romantic Season 3. Yung bida ron, si Dr. Kim Sabu. At sabi niya, kasi merong crisis doon sa hospital, ang sabi niya, to simplify things, sabi ni Dr. Kim Sabu, at the end of the day, our purpose in life, to paraphrase, is to treat and save patients. Nakafocus siya doon, to treat and save patients. Definitely, siguro sa HR, dapat meron din tayong ganong philosophy. Ako, every time I join a company, I try to introduce this philosophy kasi kanya-kanya namang philosophy yung mga companies. Wala namang masama doon. But ako personally, to remind myself why I am in HR, this is the philosophy that I work with my team. Pero nababago to, depende sa company. But in essence, ito yon. Sa akin, HR exists. We exist to attract, to develop, to engage, and retain employees or talents. Bakit? Who will drive the business in achieving the expected results. The reason why we are recruiting people, we are training, we do have this OD thing, engagement, and other events. All of this we are doing so that we'll be able to drive the business in achieving the expected results. In other words, yung discussion natin ngayon, tatakbo siya about how to guide and influence top management or senior leadership. Ito yon. If there's one word na gusto kong sabihin before I go to the details of the topic, the word begins with the letter C. How do you influence and guide management? Isang word lang yon. HR should have the credibility. credibility. HR should have the credibility to guide and influence management. Without the credibility, talagang hindi tayo papansinin ng management. Without the credibility, hindi naman tayo, walang bibilib din sa atin. So yung trabaho natin, malilimit lang tayo to the transactional. Okay? So the question now is, how do we get or secure credibility? Hindi naman nabibili sa SM yun, di ba? So how do we secure credibility? There are things that we need to do para ma-build yung credibility natin. Credibility is like respect. You don't demand it, you earn it. You earn it. You don't go to a company, Mr. Vice President for HR ka, and tell people, respect me, I'm credible because I'm an HR, I'm a Vice President for HR. No, you have to earn it. You have to earn it. Ano? You cannot demand it. And how do we earn it? Ito yung pag-uusapan natin itong next few minutes natin. If you have questions, just take it down. List it down. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan. So, si David Ulrich was a sikat yan. Was a very famous, popular leadership consultant or management consultant in the 1990s. HR. And sabi niya, itong model na to, itong framework na to, sinabi niya, ito yung 4 roles of HR. 1990s to pero hanggang ngayon ginagamit na framework ito o model to ng maraming mga HR practitioners, even sa mga conglomerates. Ang sabi dito, sabi ni David Ulrich, merong 4 roles na yung HR na dapat na master natin para tayo may credibility. Mamaya, i-refine ko to to what I call, hindi ito, but a different version that I would like to propose to PHRG. Pero going back, sabi ni David Ulrich, the number 1 is we have to be strategic partners of business. We exist because of the business. Kung HR tayo, you're listening now or later on you'll be listening to the replay. Kailangan matanggap, ma-embrace natin yung katotohanan na yon. Yung spotlight hindi wala sa HR. We are enablers. We are a resource of the company. Ang spotlight nasa business. Kailangan tulungan natin yung negosyo na lumago. Tulungan natin yung negosyo na makabenta. So we should be strategic partners of the business. So that's our first role, sabi ni David Ulrich. I will talk about this later on. Number 2, we should be administrative experts. Yung pinag-usapan natin kanina, no? Part of the role of HR, di natin maiwasan yan. Transactional talaga. Timekeeping, payroll, talagang transactional yon. Of course, ngayon, mabuti na lang kasi marami dyan nag-o-offer na ng mga outsourced service na, naka-outsource yung timekeeping, payroll, kundi naman at least naka-outsource yung system mo para hindi naman masyadong mabusisi o masyadong time-consuming yung timekeeping and payroll. But we're expected to be admin experts. Yung nakikita ko sa PHRG, may mga issues yan na paulit-ulit. And minsan yung issue paulit-ulit siya, yun na lang, baka ma-misinterpret ako. Kunwari, certificate of employment, 1 year na yata ako sa PHRG, marami pa rin tanong about certificate of employment. And sabi ko, kung HR ka, hindi na dapat issue yun. Hindi na dapat pinag-uusapan yun. Dapat alam natin paano gumawa, alam natin ng rules, alam natin ng labor laws, paano natin i-implement yon. In other words, we're expected to be the admin experts in the company. Dapat, ano ibig sabihin nun? Kapag mayroong benefits na i-administer, dapat alam natin yon. Hindi yung hindi natin alam. Pag nagtanong sa'yo, pwede ba mag-encash ng leave? Ano sasagot mo? Hindi ko alam eh. Pwede ba yun? Hindi naman ganun, di ba? Or mag-SSS loan ako, ano ba limits ko? Hindi ko din alam. Magbasa ka ng website. Hindi ganon. HR tayo, dapat alam natin yun. We're supposed to be admin experts. Number 3, the red box, we should be, sabi ni David Ulrich, we should be change agents. In the company, by the way, sabi nga, the people who will survive the company, especially in this age ngayon, grabe yung technological advancement. I worked for 38 years. Baka may mga nandito, more than yun ng trabaho, years and tenure. And this is the era wherein napakabilis talaga ng advances in technology. And HR is expected to become the change agent. We are the change agent. In other words, maraming mangyayari sa company and HR is expected to lead the change, not to hinder the change. I remember in 2015, I was working with Ross Holdings then, the sugar and bioethanol company of the MVP Group, si Mr. Manny Pangilinan. And of course, siyempre, nagkaroon kami ng opportunity. We went to Hong Kong. Nandun na headquarters ng First Pacific. And doon namin ginawa yung HR Congress. And during the HR Congress, would you believe, factual to, hindi naman to factual. Would you believe for 2 days, sabi ko nga kay Mr. MVP after the conference, I emailed din kasi nagulat ako eh. This is in my life, in my professional life, this is my first HR Congress in so many years that there was no HR topic. Would you believe there was no HR topic for 2 days? Ano? I was expecting that we'd go into Hong Kong and then the experts in MVP group about HR will be talking about their expertise, share the best practice. There was none. There was none. Instead, kilala niya mga speaker namin. Ang speaker namin were mga nakamaong, naka-t-shirt, kulang na lang, naka-shorts. Very, very informal. These are people from Uber, people from Google, um, Uber, I forgot the other companies, mga startup companies, ano? Sila yung nandun. And the reason, sabi nung noon na walang explanation, basta puro ganun lang ang ano namin, nung Congress. Sabi ko, what's happening? Of course, I'm enjoying kasi, syempre, grabe opportunity to talk with people from Uber, from Google. I think Twitter was there also. So ang galing, ano? Ang galing niya talaga. Then after that, when I think it was MVP or another person who summarized, I think it was MVP who summarized it. Sabi niya, the reason why there was no HR topic because he wanted to impress upon us HR heads and HR professionals in the MVP group, and there were hundreds of us. Sabi niya, sinasabi lang niya, the world is changing. If at this point HR is still talking about job description, you will fail. Sabi niya, you saw these are very young people. You saw how Uber, Google, Twitter, and other companies disrupted the world with their technology. Sabi niya, it's bound to happen also to us. And better for HR to be prepared because that is your role, to lead the company in these changes because the world will be disrupted. It's sa akin is powerful. The reason why I made kwento ngayon about it, not to promote MVP, but it was an HR Congress in my entire life that I cannot forget because there was no HR topic. Instead, we were introduced to these young people in their 20s talking about Google, Uber, Twitter, and the other companies. I think may Facebook din yata doon. Pinakita niya sa akin, hindi ko makakalimutan, that the world will change. And right now, mas nag-change siya. Siyempre, familiar naman kayo about chat GPT, di ba? And the other AIs. The world is changing. The question is, how will the company adapt? So HR should be there. Hindi tayo ba't naghihinder doon? Hindi tayo dapat nagpapanik. So ulit, strategic partners of the business, we're admin experts, we're change agents, and of course, number 4, we are employee champions. We are not the eyes and ears of management. While important to give feedback to management, it is not our role to tell management who to fire. It is not our role to tell management, sa ganito, speaking at your back, talking at your back. It's not our role. It is not a role to management to say, itong executives na to, palpak to, dapat tanggalin na natin, boss. Hindi ganon. We are employee champions. We're supposed to help them. We're supposed to be counselors, coaches, mentors, and we're supposed to help the employees as they perform. Di ba? Kasi sabi natin, ang philosophy natin, what? Is to retain people, to attract, develop, retain, engage and attract and retain people who will drive the business in achieving the business results. We are employee champions not because we are union leaders. We're employee champions because these are the employees who will deliver the business results. Huwag natin kakalimutan yan. Okay? Sorry medyo na-carried away ako. Introduction pa lang yan. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. Now, I will refine the Ulrich model. Kasi it's a model. And I will try to share with you these 4 boxes also that I will also discuss in details. Maraming slides later on. Di ba marami? There are 4 things that we need to do, whether you're a veteran HR, by the way, hindi to applicable lang sa newbies. Even ako as HR head at the vice president level, when I retired, I'm practicing this, at the back of my mind. Palaging dala-dala ko to. Hindi ka pwedeng very proud ka. Hindi, HR head na ako, hindi ko na kailangan yan, pang ano lang yan, pang HR assistant. Hindi, kailangan natin to. There was a question earlier, siguro masasagot ko rin yon, yung how do you you're undermanned, how do you convince management about manpower loading? Masasagot ko rin yan. So, ano yung 4 na yan? Number 1, you have to master your craft. To be credible, dapat alam mo yung trabaho mo. Di ba? Kung yung CEO hanggang ngayon, problema mo, may problema tayo sa credibility mo. Di ba? So, dapat alam mo kung yung craft mo o yung yung trabaho mo dapat alam mo. Number two, kailangan marunong tayo, dapat business partner tayo. Mamaya pag-uusapan din natin yan. How to be a business partner. No? Number three, kaduktong nung blue box, we need to translate this into business results. Why? I'm a member of another HR community. Saling pusa ako doon, saling cat. This community is composed of mga former PIMA presidents na who's helping mga SMEs, mga small and medium enterprises about HR, no? About HR. And karamihan during meetings, isa sa mga binabanggit doon, yung mga owners, hindi naman sila galit sa HR. Hindi. Minsan lang kasi owner sila, maliit ang business sila, hindi sila conglomerate like Ayala or MVP Group na maraming pera, maraming resources, di ba? These are startup companies o maliliit na companies na yung pera nila, they would rather spend it for operations, di ba? Pambili ng supplies, pang sweldo ng mga tao, rather than pumunta ka sa mga complicated and sophisticated HR programs. In other words, you've got to understand that if you are a newcomer here, or medyo newbie, or kaya medyo matagal na, but working in a company na may small and medium enterprise, dapat tanggapin muna natin yung truth na yon that the owners, most of them are not against HR. Yung nga lang gusto nilang yung pera nila, gamitin nila to expand the business or to sustain the business. The question is, dapat tulungan natin sila to understand HR. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin yan. Okay, so translate this into business. And of course, we need to be people's champions. Mamaya pag-usapan din natin. Okay, let me now go to the first, to the green box, master your craft. Okay. These are just buckets. Para sa akin, this is based on my previous companies. This is not a dogma. This is not doctrine. In other companies, pwedeng iba tawag dyan, pwedeng iba yung laman ng buckets na di-discuss ko mamaya. But based on my experience only, these are the 6 core functions of HR in terms of buckets. One is talent management. Second is learning and development training. Number 3 is compensation and benefits. Number 4 is performance and rewards management. Number 5 is engagement and culture. Number 6, labor relations. I will discuss this one by one. I would also like to take this opportunity, bago yan, to promote also my other group. I'm a honorary co-founder, member of the Human Renewal and Transformation Group of the Philippines, led by founder Ernest Pinoza, with Jerry, former PIMA president, former PIMA president siya, EOY, and PMY, also Jerry Plana and Ed Soriano among the leaders there. And the group thinks about it's about thought leadership, or trying to develop the thinking process of the HR professionals, so that when we go into these functions, hindi lang basic yung alam natin. Makita nyo to as we discuss this. Okay, let me go to the different boxes right now. Number 1, talent management. Again, sabi ko, yung 1 and 2, talent learning development, pwedeng pwedeng mag-chop suey yan. Kasi depende kung anong company ka. No? Depende. The model applies. Okay lang yun, walang problema. Hindi to dogma. For talent management, you're talking about talent acquisition or recruitment. So if you're new, this is one, by the way, ulitin ko, kaya ako kinikwento to. If you are new, chances are, nandiyan kayo sa isa dyan. Okay? So nandiyan kayo sa isa dyan. And important yun. Number 2, kaya ako kinikwento itong buon na to, so that if you're a newcomer, pwede mong makita ngayon, marami pa palang pwedeng role sa HR. Hindi lang pala recruitment, Hindi lang pala puro union, hindi lang puro NTE. So maraming roles na pwede pa natin trabahuhin. And then, I hope this will give you a hope and something to cheer on, na yung future, yung path ng HR, marami yan. Hindi ka nakabaon dyan, Hindi ka nakabaon dyan. So number 1 is acquisition or recruitment. When I was in HR, this is one of my first job, acquisition and recruitment. Part of the acquisition and recruitment is onboarding. Acquisition and recruitment and onboarding. Yung iba, hindi binibigyan ng pansin yung onboarding. Sa akin, important yan. You know why? Between the signing of the job offer and the onboarding is around 30 days. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Um, the talent can back out and you cannot do anything about it. Ano? So it is important that after the job signing, you engage the employee. You engage the employee. In other words, meron akong kilala ko ng mga team ko, no? Whatever company I go to, meron akong isang philosophy na sinasabi sa kanila. Alam niyo kung ano yung philosophy na yun? Karirin mo. Nandiyan ka na eh. Nandiyan ka na, karirin mo. Karirin mo siya. In other words, nandiyan ka na, so ayusin mo. Hindi yung pwedeng petics tayo na, na-hire na siya, okay na, bahala ka na sa buhay mo. Hindi. Kailangan engage mo siya. Kailangan paminsan-minsan tinetext mo. Kailangan i-share mo na yung company website. Kailangan sineshare, baka pwede nga isama mo na sa survivor group. Kasi the talent has to feel engaged or that he belongs to the community already. Otherwise, ako, marami kong alam na ganyan. Marami. Very recent, merong kumukonsulta sa akin dyan, ano? Na kumbaga sa nakapirma na siya. And then all of a sudden, may ibang company pumasok. Ano gagawin mo? Lalo kung mas maganda, di ba? And I think sa page RG, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this. Hindi naman ganun kadalas, but I'm seeing this. Marami nagtatanong dyan, nakapirma na ako, sir, ma'am. Tapos may nag-offer, ano gagawin ko? These are valid questions. We shouldn't invalidate them, ano? These are valid questions. Kaya sa akin, important yung onboarding, ano? Hindi pa siya pumapasok, dapat importante na yon. And then pagpasok niya, dapat mawaw mo siya. Hindi yung pagpasok niya, dapat pagpasok niya, may sasalubong sa kanya, merong orientation yung company. Ganyan, mga magagaling na companies, ano yan? Pagpasok niya sa table niya, may laptop na. Nandoon na yung service phone. Kung entitled siya, nandoon na yung service phone. May directory na. And then, iniikot na siya. Aside from the regular orientation, iniikot na siya, pinapakilala siya hanggang presidente, no? Then pinapakita sa kanya saan ang CR, saan ang canteen. Di ba? These are important things. You find it trivial, but for talent management, this is important. You've got to go very personal. In other words, this is one function, acquisition and onboarding. And pasensya na kayo, instead of just telling you the function, medyo nag-uusap na tayo dito ano yung pwedeng gawin pag nandun ka. Number 2, the second bucket is learning and development, training. So sa training, nandito yung mga bullet points like leadership training. So the worst thing that can happen, by the way, the worst thing that can happen is you spend a lot of money for training that people do not need. Ulitin ko, the worst thing that can happen is you will spend a lot of money for training that people do not need. Or worse, ito yung worst pa. Worse to. For something that the business does not need. Gagasta ka ng pera pero hindi pala kailangan ng business. Dapat kailangan ng business palagi. I'm not here to discuss about the leadership courses kasi marami na, alam nyo naman yan. This is not the intention of the webinar. Number 2, and this is for me very important because my last 23 years, at least 22 years were spent with plants, with Manila Water and Reyes Holdings. Both may mga planta yan. Very important yung technical training. Huwag natin sabihin, rank and file lang yan, huwag na natin i-train ako. Hindi. Nandiyan ang buhay ng company. In fact, the leadership training, pwedeng magbigay ka lang ng essentials. Pero yung rank and file training, safety, health, wellness, pinag-usapan kanina, and of course, the technical training part of it. I would like to commend, I think one of the people watching here is my former HR head in Central Socorrero Don Pedro for Reyes Holdings. At yung Central Socorrero Don Pedro, isa sa mga best practices noon. Meron silang tawag nila job fundamentals training during part of the year wherein walang operations. They go back to the job essentials. They review what happened in the past operations, what went wrong, what went right, and they do job fundamentals. Biski sabihin mo 25 years na si Mr. Rubio doon sa planta, and train mo pa rin siya. You do not assume na abisado na niya. In other words, technical training is very important. Number 3 and 4, I will not discuss in details, but this is already strategic. If you want to go strategic HR and you want top management to fall in love with you, joke pero totoo yan. Kailangan alam nyo itong succession planning. Succession planning is if something happens or if your executives and senior management people leave the company, who will replace them? The reason why many companies panic pag may nagre-resign na executive or managers kasi wala silang kapalit. But you have a succession planning, you develop a plan, and then over a period of time, you develop these people so that they become ready in a period of time, that would be good enough. So this is for strategic, not today. Another one is cross posting. Cross posting is another word for so it's a strategic word for job transfer. Kasi hindi lang to job transfer. Cross posting is iikot mo yung mga key talents mo, iikot mo siya. Ano? Hindi pwede magre-retire. Sasabihin mo na next retire is Mr. Eric Reyes. He has been with HR compensation for the past 40 years. Tuntua ka pa, papalakpakan mo, 40 years siya doon. Hindi. Sa akin, failure yon. Dapat yung tao na train natin in many other aspects. I'm fortunate also part of my work, especially sa Manila Water where we won the Employer of the Year. We have very, very strong cross-posting program. We rotate people, we assign them to areas na hindi sila masyadong comfortable so that we'll be able to deepen the bench. No? Hindi tayo pwedeng San Miguel Beer na dependent kay Junmar Fajardo na kapag kasakit si Junmar Fajardo, wala kang championship. Hindi ka pwedeng ganun. So dapat malalim yung bench mo. Okay? So that is learning and development. Marami pa yan, ha? By the way, ano lang to, I'm just touching the surface, pero marami pa yan later on, di pa ngayon. And of course, compensation and benefits, sabi ko nga, transactional, but these are very important. Timekeeping, payroll, should be there. 100%, no error, no room for error, no room for any error at all. And then kasama din dyan yung salary and benefits administration. And of course, job evaluation or yung job worth ng mga jobs. And then focus muna dito sa salary and benefits administration. One of the words na naririnig nyo siguro if you're HR right now is what you call talent retention. Diba? How do you retain talents? Minsan may joke kami dyan Sir, your training is good but we need cash. Totoo yun. Totoo yun. And this is where compensation and benefits will come in. Ano? Hindi pwedeng, kunwari, may top talent ka, nasa succession planning, you're grooming him or her for higher position. Hindi naman pwedeng hindi naman pwedeng puro training lang. So this is where salary administration will come into the picture. And for me, let me focus muna on salary for people here who are experienced naman. Salary and benefits administration should not stop at may salary, may sweldo. Hindi ganon. Dapat pinag-aaralan din natin. Progressive companies have salary surveys to take a look at ano ba yung position ng sweldo natin versus the market, di ba? And then yung mga benefits administration, pinag-aaralan yan. Hindi ko may benefits kang ganito, okay na, di ba? Minsan I have the experience sa former company ko, Manila Water. We had a car loan program for the entry-level managers, car loan. Nung unang cycle, dami lahat kumuha ng kotse kasi these are, hindi pa uso yung term na yan, pero gamitin ko, these are millennials, mga mid-20s, first managerial position, first car, so excited sila. Pagdating sa second cycle, after 5 years, ba't ako wala na kumukuha ng loan, ng cars. Tinanong ko, nag-FGD ako, o kinausap ko yung mga kaibigan ko, ba't di kayo kumukuha ng kotse? Ano sabi sa akin? Sir, ano yung second car? Di ba? Totoo naman yun. Unless benta ko yung first. Which, ano gusto nyo? Sir, gusto namin pumunta ng Singapore kasi this was mga 2008 era, no? Sir, gusto ko punta Hong Kong, gusto ko na Singapore. Sir, gusto namin magkaroon ng Mac Pro. Kasi 15 years ago, hindi naman common pa yung mga Mac, di ba? Sir, kakasal ako, wala akong puhunan, pwede bang may loan? So in other words, we converted the car loan into what we call a lifestyle loan. If you need a car loan, you take a loan sa car. If you need a loan for the wedding, take a loan. Of course, may mga guidelines yan, hindi ganun kasimple. If you need a loan, you want to go to Hong Kong, Singapore with your friends, okay, mag-loan ka. It became a retention plan, a retention program for some of our top young people, young professionals at that time. It worked. Strategic salary and benefits administration does not stop doon sa magpapasweldo ka. Dapat iniisip mo ngayon kung ano yung pwede mong gawin. Dapat familiar ka sa market. Ano ba yung mga positions sa palaging napopoach kami? Dapat alam mo yon. Kaya nag-recommend ka sa management. Ano ba yung pwede nating gawin dito? Okay, so that's one part. Let's now go to the second slide. The next slide. The next slide is what I call performance and rewards management. Nung unang panahon, ang mga companies nabubuhay lang sa compensation and benefits administration. That is a traditional way of looking at it. Ngayon, ina-expand na siya, either yung CNB is part of this or separately. we have what we call performance and rewards management. Performance and rewards management is composed of two major functions. Number one, performance management, meaning yung mga performance goals, mga KPIs, KRAs, KPIs, dapat meron yan. Ano? Sabi nga, we are here, di ba, to achieve business results. And the number one, kung tatanungin niyo ako, gusto niyo ma-enlabulit ang top management sa inyo, your leaders, dapat meron kayong performance management system sa company. Whether your company is a company of 1,500 people or a company of 10 people, dapat may performance management ka. Kasi dito ma-align ngayon yung performance ng tao dun sa goal ng company. And this is handled by this function. Another function is what we call the rewards management. Dito na papasok yung mga merit increase, promotion, di ba? Dapat mga companies may promotion may mga promotion policies din, incentives, and what I call the retention plans, pinag-usapan natin kanina. And of course, the next box is what I call engagement and culture. So I think most companies have the VMV or the vision, mission, values. It is important for us to have that because that is our North Star. That is our compass. The vision, mission, values. The reason why we exist. Kailangan meron tayo niyan. And for newbies at mga hindi pa masyadong solve yung top management, this is something na pwede kayong tumulong para mas maintindihan ng management ko ni HR. And of course, part of engagement, dapat may mga recognition programs ang company to recognize the model employees. Napapansin ko dun sa PHRG, most of the comments that I'm reading there halos every day has something to do with disciplinary action, NTEs. Walang masama doon kasi talagang totoo yun. Nangyayari sa mga companies, even sa company mga pinanggalingan ko, meron din nun. But you have to balance that. Hindi pwedeng puro NTE pinag-uusapan. Hindi pwedeng puro disciplinary action. Dapat meron din kayong mga recognition programs. It can be the model employees. It could be spot recognition. And sabi ko nga, nag-umpisa kami sa Manila Water. Nag-umpisa kami ang mga contest namin doon. Alam nyo, ito hindi joke, dito exaggerated. Alam nyo, mga papremyo namin, choknat. Pag umabot kami sa level ng M&M, yung mga imported, high level na yun kasi MM na. Pero sila kayo, mga choknat, mga potato chips. Sa mga tao na discover namin, hindi naman mahalaga sa kanila yung value ng mahalaga ma-recognize sila. So if you're in HR, it's important you have this kasi this is something that you'll be able to recognize and promote the value of the company. Of course, yung kanina pinag-usapan natin about mental health, wellness, dapat nandyan. Sabi ko nga, tama yung sinabi ni Shine kanina, during the height of the pandemic, hanggang naman, meron pa rin naman tayong COVID. But during the height of COVID, HR ang nasa strategic frontline yan, Nabala nga lahat ng programs, Sabi ko, succession, cross-posting, wala lahat yun. Ako, trabaho lang namin sa Reyes Holdings, magbilang ng ilan yung may COVID. Magbilang. Tapos mag-isolate ng mga tao, mag-quarantine, magkaroon ng, you take care of the people who are sick, find the hospital, find the place where they can be, take care of their families. Wala mo ng training. Wala mo na lahat yun. Important sa atin itong how to take care of them. So wellness is important. Number 4, the next bullet points about socials, sabi ko nga, in every company that I go to, mga suggestions ko dito, dapat meron tayong we recognize yung mga thematic or calendar-based events that are important in our lives. 2 weeks from now, we have Father's Day. So what's your plan in your company? How do you celebrate the father? How do you recognize the fathers? A month ago, we have Mother's Day. How do you recognize the moms for working? Hirap ang trabaho nila, Then during graduation of mga students, how do you recognize the parents na nagpag-graduate ng mga anak? Valentine's, how do you celebrate Valentine's? Di ba? So maraming events, of course, Christmas party, etc. In other words, to Pilipino, importante kasi importante yung events. Yung mahalaga sa kanila yung ng buhay, yung implication nito. Ako pag tinatanong ako ng mga companies where kung bago ko, Eric, ano yung mga programs, ano yung part ng HR? Na doon sa past company mo, top of mind yung makalimutan. Isa lang sinasabi ko, events. Why events? Kasi events yan ang heart and soul ng company. You can do all of these programs. Pakikita mo yung mga tao kung nag-work yung program mo in events. Hindi naman sa classroom yun . Sa events, makikita mo kung kunwari Christmas, ako, kinikwento ko to palagi, hindi naman to secret. Sa Manila Water, alam mo problem namin doon, ang Christmas party namin. 2 hours before the opening of the door, nandun yung mga tao, 2 hours before. To the point, nagagalit na kami. Ako yung chief organizer. Nagagalit na ako. Ba't kayo pupunta dito? Walang ano. Hindi ko mabit yung culture. 2 hours before, nandun na sila. So ginawa namin, nagkaroon kami ng pre-Christmas party event. Sa labas ng venue, naghanap kami ng lugar para magkaroon ng event para sila malibang. Then pagpasok pa lang nila ng venue, nagsasayawan na. And then kung ang tapos ng event, 11 or 12 o'clock, 95% of the people stay. Wala na kayong raffle na bongga. Wala kami libreng kotse. Simple lang kami. Pero lahat ng tao sumasayaw. Lahat ng tao, because sa akin, para sa akin, that means the HR programs are working. Not only at work, but still more deeply dun sa heart and soul ng mga tao namin. So socials, do not forsake this. Masasabi ko lang sa inyo. If you're an SME, ano ba yung mga socials na yan? Dapat tingnan natin. Sa K-drama, may hilig sila sa mga team dinners. Sa Tagalog, inuman lang yun. Ang mga Pilipino, mas magaling, mas creative tayo. And of course, the last bucket is if you're unionized, we have labor relations, of which we handle CBA negotiations, union relations. Nandito na rin, miski wala kang union, nandiyan yung code of conduct, discipline, NTE. Of course, when you go to DOLE, mga SENA, mga NCMB, NLRC, grievance, sama yan. During my last company sa RHI, at its peak, we handled 6 unions. And there was a time in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, 2020, we were negotiating with 5 unions in Negros and Batangas, all online. Natuwa nga Dole sa amin, pioneer daw kami, all online, all successful, and online lang siya. And we succeeded. In other words, we had to negotiate with them. So, once again, kaya ko sinasabi to for HR here, at medyo bago, kung medyo matagal na kayo, specialized, at least tinignan nyo lang to, okay lang. But if you're new, o kaya HR head ka, o kaya nasa company ka na maliit na baka kulang pa yung kaalaman mo on mastering your craft, you can take a look at these slides. And take a look at kung recruitment ka, meron ka pang career sa training, pwede pa yon. May career ka sa compensation and benefits. Kung taga-diyan ka, timekeeping payroll, pwede ka mag-ambisyon pumunta ng recruitment o ng training. And of course, pwede ka rin mag-ambisyon na pumunta naman dito sa next box na to about rewards, etc. Sa PHRG, I've been contacted by several people privately about merit programs kasi wala sila sa company nila. So, simple lang, So, tingnan natin yan. And of course, engagement sa akin napaka-important because it sets the culture, sets the tone for the culture of the company. And if you're unionized, o kung di naman unionized, labor relations is also very important. Okay, next. That's number 1. That's mastering your craft. Ibig sabihin natin dito, kung HR ka, dapat alam mo to. Dapat alam mo yan. Kasi sabi ko nga, di ba, credibility. Hindi pwedeng magtiwala sa atin ng management kung wala tayong alam. So dapat mag-aral tayo, magpaturo tayo, etc. Next, my next point is be a business partner. O HRBP. Some call it HRBP. Number 1, how do we become an HR business partner? Number 1, study the business. Sa PHRG, marami ko na encounter na tanong diyan even privately na, "Sir, I'm new in HR. What seminar do I need to attend to be effective?" Sabi ko, "No, don't attend a seminar first." "Bakit, sir?" Sabi ko, ang una mong gawin, you study the business. Ano ba yung negosyo nyo? Kasi mahirap baka umattend ka ng seminar. Yung naman seminar mo, hindi naman applicable sa negosyo nyo. So, study the business. Ano ba yung nature ng business nyo? Diba? Right now, by the way, I'm an HR consultant in 2 companies. Cavite Biofuel is a startup company in Cavite, owned by company in India and also Filipinos. I think India majority. And of course, I'm also a consultant in personal collection PC. Some of the senior managers are here, no? So yung PC, ang business namin, dealers, we're dealers. Marami nagtatanong sa amin, ano ba kayo? Tanong ko rin yun nung wala akong alam. Avon ba kayo? Natasha ba kayo? Sabi ko, hindi. Unang ginawa ko, I studied the business. Ano ba kami? So I found out that our competitors kasi we're selling toothpaste, we're selling mga fabric conditioner, we're selling mga mga toilet products, yung panlinis ng toilet bowl and others. Sabi ko, competition pala natin, FMCGs, ano? Natapat lang, ibang platform natin where sila nasa supermarket, nasa tindahan, tayo nasa dealer. So I have to study the business. Kasi this is new to me. Ano? Imagine, for 7 years, I worked with Globe Telecom, high-tech telco. Kami nag-start nung GSM, yung telepono natin sa Globe. Nandiyan kami alam niyo ba, trivia, nag-umpisa yung business ng Globe Telecom. Globe Makino araw yan, but yung digital business nila, yung cellphone, mobile phone, nag-umpisa yan sa isang room na ang tao, 6 lang, 6 lang. Until lumaki siya ng lumaki at sobrang laki na siya ngayon. Imagine after telco, I moved to Manila Water. The business was water. So I also have to study again water. In other words, if you want to be a business partner, dapat alam natin yung business natin. Hindi pwedeng pag upo mo doon bago kang hire, HR kagad, timekeeping payroll. Hindi ganon. Of course, kasama sa trabaho yon, but dapat we should study our business. Ano ba yon? So pupunta ka sa Red Box ngayon. You should dive into operations. Pag-aralan mo yung business mo, hindi lang study na, personal collection kami. Hindi. Kami, I was joined by, through the kindness of the Learning and Development Senior Manager, si Madi, at yung kasama ko yung talent manager na si Marvin, pumunta kami sa isang branch sila sa Commonwealth. Dapat tingnan ko ano ba itsura ng branch, paano ba sila nagbebenta, sino ba yung mga tao doon, paano ba sila nagme-meeting, paano ba yung quota, paano pag may problema, ano ginagawa nila, ano yung mga activities na gagawin nila, etc. etc. So, dapat magda-dive ka sa operations. Pag bago ako sa planta, pupunta ako sa planta, doon ako tinitingnan ko ilang araw, ano bang operations nila. Kaya ako, kunwari, if you're in HR, na medyo meron kayong planta o meron kayong basta hindi ba maliit masyadong business niya, medyo may kalakihan at may mga planta na kayo, masasuggest ko magkaroon kayo na what I call immersion program, wherein new hires are immersed in the plant or whatever it is, whether malaki yun o maliit, kung restaurant na 10 tao, doon muna siya, mag-waiter siya doon, magkahera siya doon for 10 days para maintindihan niya anong business. Because that is the only way for people to be effective HR business partners if you know the business. If you do not know the business, hindi ka papansinin ng line, hindi ka papansinin nung head ng commercial. Even ng president, hindi ka kakausapin kung hindi mo alam yung business mo. Number 3, sabi dito, speak their language. Speak the language of the line. You do not go to the line and talk about ganito, sir, mag-ano tayo? Pwede bang mag-job evaluation tayo so that we can proceed to the restructuring of our salary levels, and we want to find out the comparison of each job level with the salary range of around 200%, which is broad-banded already. By the time di ka patapos ang sentence mo, iniwan ka na ng kausap mo. Why? Hindi ka niya maintindihan. I was telling some of my friends sa HR, ang sabi ko, pag HR business partner ang topic ko, sabi ko, wag nating gagawin, kasama ako doon, is kakausapin natin yung line. If I may use this word, sorry kung gagamitin kong word na to, at gagawin natin silang mukhang engot. Yan yung mukhang engot. Yung parang wala silang kalam-alam, parang ang bobo nila, hindi nila tayo maintindihan. Mali yun. Dapat tayo nag-a-adjust sa kanila. Gets? Dapat tayo nag-a-adjust sa kanila. We should speak their language. I remember again when I was in Manila Water, I was talking to the business head and who passed away already, and the CEO, President and CEO. Sabi nila sa akin, sabi niya, so we're new, sabi niya, ganito, just pakita mo lang sa amin ano yung progress o anong plans mo, and then okay, we'll approve on one condition. Sabi ko, sir, anong condition na yan? Do not tell us about frameworks. Ayoko makita ng mga bilog-bilog ng mga boxes na yan, mga triangle yan, mga bilog-bilog sa HR, gagaling nyo dyan. Hindi ko maintindihan. Gusto ko lang malaman, kailan ka mag-hire, kailan ka mag-train, kailan mo de-develop tong taon to, kailan natin matatapos yung CBA negotiation. In other words, yung mga framework, yung mga magagandang ginagawa nating HR linggo, atin na lang yun. Pagkausap na lang natin yung head ng HR o tayo yung mga staff natin, tayo na lang yun. Pero paglabas natin sa HR office, dapat ang conversation natin is HR. Ang conversation natin is the language of the business. We do not go to the line, we do not go to the executives or the president or the chairman and talk about HR language. we have to talk about convert that HR language to the line. Okay? So after studying the business, dive into operations, we speak their language, then we identify the needs. Ulitin ko identify their needs, not our needs. Not our needs. Depende sa pinag-usapan natin, makikita natin, ang need pala ng operations ito. Like ako, again, example sa Manila Water when I was there, I was training director at that time. Nakita ko yung training pala na 3 days, 2 days nakakulong yung mga tao. It won't work. Alam niyo kung bakit? Kasi nature of business namin, public service Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin sa customer, customer, pwede ba wala ka munang tubig ng 3 araw kasi may seminar kami Hindi pwede yun, di ba? Hindi pwede yun. So what do we do? So what do we do is that nakita ko, based nung nag-immerse ako, na ang mag-work lang program sa kanila is this. Kailangan yung program for this particular role. Hindi naman lahat ng roles ganito. For this particular role, dapat half day lang siya per week. Tapos, spread over siya, divided yung classes. And then because of that, nagkaroon kami ng what we call a preparatory school for territory management, yun ang tawag namin doon, o TM Prep School. In other words, nag-emanate yung aming design ng training from the needs of the business, hindi on what HR needs, HR wants. Hindi pwedeng ito yung gusto ko, narinig ko sa ganyan, ganda umattend ako ng webinar sa PHRG, narinig ko si Sir Eric, sinabi yung seminar kaya tayo na succession planning. Succession planning, tao nyo lang naman sa company, 20 tao. Hindi nyo kailangan yun. So you need to identify their needs. Lalo na for SMEs, dapat very particular kayo kasi very limited ang funds ninyo. Okay? I was asked, I'm also privileged, nakaka-4 sessions ako dito because of a friend. I'm a partner, I'm a trainer of the United People Global. It is a Swiss-based developmental organization firm that trains mga startup companies, leaders, owners na involved sa CSR, involved sa business in Africa and other third world countries. Pro bono yan, pro bono. So katatapos ka lang ng Friday. But kaya ko sinasabi yon kasi there was one time I was also sharing it. This was during my second class sa kanila. I was sharing many things and one of them asked me, "Sir, your presentation is good, but we're a startup company. We cannot afford that." Na-shock din ako doon. That's because of that I adjusted also. I also gave them advice on how to go about it. Na ibig sabihin, you've got to identify the needs of the company for you to be an effective business partner. And of course, number 5, you got to deliver. Hindi pwedeng kwentuhan lang yan. So, how to be a business partner? Bottom line, dive into the operations, speak their language, and identify their needs. Okay, next slide. Medyo patapos na tayo. Ito yung third box ko kanina. First bullet is master your craft. Second is be a business partner. Number 3, translate your HR programs into business results. So kailangan matranslate natin yung effect ng HR programs to business. As much as possible, we need to quantify benefits. Kanina yung tanong ng isang participant natin na sinagot ably ni Shine, how do you convince management? I always go to that. Be factual. Be factual lang. That's the only way to do it. Minsan kasi lalo pag nasa SMEs ka, ang hirap magdagdag ng tao. But if you tell them factually that these are the benefits, makikinig naman sa iyo yun. Ang hirap kasi minsan kapag akala natin yung mga boss natin kung magsalita hindi maganda, hindi supportive sa HR, akala natin hindi sila supportive talaga. That's not correct. Iba yung mga boss na na may problema talaga sa buhay, like they would like to violate laws. Pag may PHRG question na gano'n, isa lang sinasabi ko palagi, leave that company, run. Huwag ko nang puntahan nyo, huwag ka na mag-ambisyong baguhin ang culture na wala kang magagawa. Pero kung yung boss naman nandun, pero ang kanyang problem lang, di lang niya naintindihan, meron pang way to educate it and how you need to quantify the benefits as much as possible. I remember again sa Manila Water, we have very successful, fantastic, high-impact Christmas programs. Pag nagsasayawan ng mga tao, tatawagin ako ng presidente. Alam mo, sasabihin sa akin, convert mo nga yung energy na yan sa trabaho. Of course, mahirap gawin yun. Wala namang metric doon. But I get this point. Parang gusto niya sabihin, yung mga tao ay properly motivated, properly equipped, and properly alam nila yung purpose nila, they have that energy. And I want to get that energy in actual work. In other words, ganyan tayo. You need to quantify the benefits. And sabi nga, last line dito, quantify the benefits. You need to tell the owners and the leadership team, the senior leaders, about the benefits of that program. And of course, number 3, if you're gonna do that, hopefully you'll be able to convert the line into HR funds. Kung dadating yung time, yung mga tao, after the Christmas party, pupuntahan ka na sa CR at tatanong sa'yo, Sir, kailan ang next event natin? Pag ganun, successful ka na. For me, at a successful HR professional, whether HR head or HR assistant, palaging kinakausap ng line at nagpapatulong. Yung successful HR professional, kinakausap yan ng mga leadership team. Dapat sasabihin sa'yo, alam mo, Ray, plano kong mag-expand yung business ko eh. No? Plano kong mag-expand. Ano ba sa tingin mo dapat kong gawin? Pag umabot ka na sa ganung point, okay ka na. That means meron ka ng credibility kahit papaano. Pag nilapitan ka na ng mga tao at sinabihin sa'yo, Ray, may problema tong manager natin to. Ano ba mapapayo mo para natin, ano gagawin na sa manager to? Ano payo mo? Pag nagre-reach out na sa yung senior leaders and asking for your opinion, that means may credibility ka na. And you can only do that if they find that you have value in their business. Okay? Minsan kasi problema natin mga taga-HR. Kasama ako doon nung ako nag-uumpisa. We tend to romanticize HR. We tend to romanticize HR people. We are the champions. Dapat tayo ganito, dapat ganyan. Minsan hindi naman ganun eh. Diba? Kasi ang dami mong training plans, kung yung business mo lugi, ano gagawin mo? Minsan ilalagaan mo yung manager na to o lapasado iiwan ka na pirate, ano gagawin mo? Minsan ganun ang buhay tanggapin na lang natin yun. Minsan there's a time, for example, kunwari, we're doing succession planning, we're doing talent management, and dumadating tayo, umaalis pa rin yung mga tao eh. Ako, tao lang ako, as VP HR at that time, nagtatampo rin ako eh. Kakausapin na lang ako ng mga boss ko, alam mo sasabihin sa akin, Eric, ganyan talaga buhay. Nagawa mo na yung part mo, you cannot control their destiny. So sa akin, sabi niya, gumawa ka lang na ng program para hindi tayo mapilay, etc. O kumuha ka na ng kapalit. In other words, ang gusto ko lang sabihin, magagawa lang natin yung HR funds kung yung mga tao na-convince natin that alam natin yung business. Kaya sa akin, napaka-important, I pound on this eh. Miski you master your craft, you're the best trainer, the best recruitment person, you are the best talent manager, the best content person, the most strategic engagement OD person. But if you're just working for HR, you are not credible. Mas okay pa yung konti alam mo, pero credible ka sa line kasi kasama mo sila. Nandun ka nung naghihirap sila. Nandun ka. Alam mo yung negosyo nila. So sa akin very important yon. And I would like to pound on this kasi ito yung pinaka-foundation ng how to guide and influence top management. You've got to be part of the business. You've got to be part of the business. Okay, next. Medyo patapos na tayo. Okay. Ano yung be the people's champ? Ano ba yung dito Manny Pacquiao? Paano tayo magiging people's champion, sabi nga ni David Aldrich? Number 1, we shouldn't hide behind management prerogative. Ako, inis na inis dyan. Kapag naririnig ko yung kausap ko, babanggitin sa akin, management prerogative, saka policy. Doon ako sa management prerogative. Do not hide there. Hindi ko mamanage prerogative na magtatanggal ka. Hindi ko mamanage prerogative na tatanggalin mo yung ganitong privilege sa mga tao, tatanggalin mo. Pag tinanong ka, why? Prerogative namin yan eh. Diba? Wag ganon. Kasi you are not a professional. Nagtatago ka sa management prerogative. So, management has a prerogative to change schedules, to hire people. Alam natin, to hire and fire. Wag natin gamitin, wag natin abuse yun ng ganun-ganun na lang. Dapat everything that we will do, we will have a purpose at maintindihan natin ito. Kaya ako, part din ng ginagawa namin, lalo na in my companies, Every time we change something, anytime there's an important announcement, we do a lot of road shows, we do a lot of cascades para maintindihan ng mga tao bago kami mag-implement ng something. Kasi hindi pwedeng sabihin na naglabas ka ng policy, follow effective Monday. Ha? Ito, Sunday ngayon, anong oras na? Sunday ngayon, 5:20. Effective bukas, ano na yan ha? Implemented na yan. Magtataka mga tao pag nagtanong siya sa Monday. Siya pwede magtanong, ay hindi man, siya prerogative yan eh. Hindi ba ganun? Hindi pwede yan. Di HR yun. Number 2, ito pa rin isa ko sa mga pet peeves ko. Don't make the policy as an excuse. Hindi pwede mo sabihin, ng policy eh. Ang tanong diyan, sino magawa ng policy? Sino magawa ng HR policy? Tayo rin, di ba? Minsan ganyan tayo, nakatali tayo sa policy, pero minsan tatanungin lang kita. Sino gagawa ng policy? Sir HR. Di ba gawin natin? Kasi nagbago na eh. Nagbago na yung mundo. Nagbago. Ako nga, kwento ko lang to, no? Facebook live to, pero ano lang to, don't misinterpret me, ha? Ako dati, naigpit ako sa uniform. Pag babae ka, ito uniform mo. No ifs and buts, ito yan. Pero pag ginawa kong policy, madidemanda na ako ngayon sa sa diversity and inclusion. Diba? Hindi pwede yun. So dapat ka na rin, open ka na rin sa ganun. No? Hindi naman to mga personal convictions mo. Dapat yung policy changes depende doon sa what's happening. For example, COVID. Nung height ng Delta, talagang ila-lockdown mo. Ngayon naman, hindi naman ganun kalala yung COVID. Baka ang protocols mo, medyo medyo softer na ng konti. Hindi naman bago pumasok, alam ni RT-PCR, bago pumasok. Ngayon, di ba, number of days lang eh. May COVID ka ba? Pag meron, 10 days o 7 days, dito ka na. Basta pakita mo, antigen nga, pwede na eh. So don't make the policy an excuse. As HR, siguro sabihin ko sa inyo, if there's one thing that employees hate sa HR, when HR starts saying, policy yan eh. I'm not saying you change the policy. I'm just saying, when people ask you about policies, you explain. You treat them as intelligent people na makakaintindi ng explanation natin. Huwag natin paandaran ng policy yan. Minsan maraming tanong sa page RG. I hope yung mga nagtatanong will be able to view this miski sa replay. Minsan maraming questions dyan, sa totoo lang, policy matter lang na HR yan. You can change it. Pwede mabigyan ng COE yung ganito. Pwede. Why not? Di ba? Inatanggal, pwede pa rin. Di ba? Di mo naman sasabihin of good moral conduct eh. Sinasabi lang niya, employee mo siya ng ganito eh. Maraming mga policies masyadong restrictive. May mga tanong like, pwede bang yung aking waiver, pwede bang mag-e-signature na lang ako, padala ko dyan. Why? Kasi nasa Davao ako ngayon, nasa Cebu eh. Sabihin ng HR, hindi pwede, kailangan punta ka dito. Imagine mo pupunta doon, aeroplano worth 12,000 o 15 o 10,000. Yung makukuha niya worth 8,000, lugi pa siya. Di ba? Kaya maraming taong galit sa HR eh. Di ba? Para kung di taga-HR, maraming taong galit sa atin kasi yung policy masyadong restrictive, hindi tayo open, hindi tayo open sa mga tao. We're not people's champion. Kaya tayo na-accuse na we are of management, eyes and ears. Number 3, we do what is right. Kung ano yung tama, gawin mo. Pag naka-encounter kayo ng mga bosses na may pinapagawang illegal sa inyo, explain nyo na hindi pwede. Chances are makikinig. Kapag hindi nakinig, you don't cross the line. You try to find your way to leave the company. At doon kami sa HRTGP, meron kami tinatawag na thinking question, conversation. Of which medyo mag-iisip ka talaga. This is one thing na tinanong sa amin eh. How far will you go? Isa sinagot namin in so many words. We will not cross the line of violating labor laws or any law at that. Do what is right. Do what is right. Number 4, have the courage. Huwag kayong matakot na mapagalitan. Kung meron kayong gustong suggestion sa boss nyo, suggest nyo. What's the worst thing that can happen? Papagalitan ka lang. Pagalitan ka lang. That's the worst thing. Di ka matatanggal sa trabaho. Di ka maikukulong, di ba? Pagalitan ka lang. Tanggapin mo yan. Part of ano yan eh. Part of development mo yan. I remember a kwento Hindi ako mabagit ang pangalan, kwento. This happened to an HR head of one of the bigger companies in the Philippines. At yung HR head na to, nung bago siya doon, nag-present siya kasi bago siya, so nag-present siya ng plans niya. Title page pa lang, pinuupo siya ng may-ari eh. Kasi hindi type, pinuupo. Sabi ko, ano nangyari? Sabi, I endured. Kasi I have to teach the owner. Kaya ako hinar to teach the owner, not to rebel. I was not hired to resign. So sa kanya, in-endure niya yun. At unti-unti, tinuruan niya yung owner ng company na yun. Imagine mo, first presentation mo, HR head ka, pinaupo ka, hindi ka pa nagpe-present, page 1 ka pa lang title. Hindi niya type yung title. So that it happens. Have the courage. Nandiyan ka lang. And of course, be a cheerleader sa company. Try to cheer up your employees. Hindi tayo dapat yung HR. Diba? Common comment sa HR, mga masungit tayo eh. Diba? Pupunta ka sa HR, hindi ka pa nagsasalita, sinusungitan ka na. O, ano na naman yan? Ano na naman yan? I remember a story, no? Ito nangyari to. Merong tao nag-educational loan. Pinagalitan ng benefits officer. Ikaw kasi, alam mo naman yung trabaho mo, papaaral ka pa sa ganitong school. Alam mo, mahal ang tuition doon. Umiyak yung employer, nagalit. Ginriban yung benefits officer namin. Kasi dapat tayo, hindi tayo nagja-judge. Dapat cheerleader tayo ni employees. And of course, as HR, we are there to explore solutions. Okay? I think this is my final slide. Next to the final slide, just to summarize, how do you guide and influence managers? Dapat credible ka muna sa HR professional. Alam mo yung work mo. Yung sinabi ko kaninang 6 buckets, dapat kahit isa doon, dapat alam mo. Hindi pwedeng wala kang alam doon. Dapat may alam ka kasi dapat credible ka. If you're right now a recruitment officer, be good in recruitment. If you're good in labor relations, be good in labor relations. Number 2, sa akin, ito yung pinakamahalaga sa lahat. Be a business partner. HR does not exist for itself. We exist because of the business. Yung mga business owners, lalove ka niyan pagdating sa number 3. Pag nakita niya na yung HR programs mo translates into business results. That owner will love you. And of course, yung HR dapat people's champion tayo. We are there not to hide behind policies and prerogatives, but we are there to fight for the people kung tama yung tao. Don't get me wrong, yung fight, ibig sabihin, minsan maka-encounter ka ng management na puro mali talaga sasabihin sa'yo. It is your role as HR to do what is right. If you cannot do what is right, my suggestion is leave that company, run away. Because dadating ang time, may imbibe mo yung culture na yun. I hope hindi. I hope wala tayo sa ganung company. So I think that's all. And my final slide, in all of this, let us be firm, let us be fair, and let us be consistent. Okay, so that's all. Darwin, Tina, I'd like to thank PHRG for this. If there are any questions, sorry, medyo nakaredy ako, dumaba. If there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Actually, there's a comment here, Sir Eric, coming from one of the Facebook users. Sir Eric, well done. The question is, aren't HR practitioners, especially from MSMEs, boxed in as specialists and therefore cannot become HR generalists because of the organization setup and the narrowness of mind of some HR practitioners and business owners? Medyo hindi ko to magets. Kasi even small and
I
medium
get, yeah.
they even small and medium enterprises can have different levels of HR. They can have generalists and specialists. But kayo, sir, what's your opinion on this particular question?
Yeah, I agree. Kasi sabi ng MSMEs, kasi medyo maliit pa yung organization, talagang box ka specialist. Nobody naman starts as a generalist. Even I started as a specialist. I was a methods engineer, move as a compensation analyst, so on and so forth. So in other words, it is a stage. Umpisa ka muna ng specialist before maging generalist ka. Siguro pag nasa malaking company ka, doon ka magiging generalist. But start ka muna talaga doon sa specialist level.
I'd like to answer the question of Sir Ernesto Espinosa by Sir Eric's insight kanina. Sabi po niya, a lot of the HRs just remain in the office. How many HRs actually venture out of the 4 doors of their office and
That's
actually
correct.
go to the floor? While you might be hired as a specialist, it is your choice to remain a specialist.
Yeah,
Kasi
right.
maraming mga HRs na ayaw nila hanggang dyan lang
Yeah,
sila.
right.
So they actually go out, talk to people,
Yes,
find
right.
out what the operations are. So at least when they talk to the bosses who are managing the business, it has more meat.
Yeah.
Kasi isipin natin, di ba? Kanina yung sinasabi ni Sir Eric about management prerogative. parang ang lumalabas sa akin, managed prerogative is the easiest, most convenient excuse for any HR to tell another person, another employee, just to shut them up.
Yeah.
The reason why you can't explain the policy and use management prerogative is because you want to push the issue right under the rug and don't want to deal with this person anymore. Because the chances are you have no clue how the policy was set up. You don't really know the limitations of the policy or the rationale. And so when somebody comes with you with a question that you can't answer, sasabihin mo na lang management prerogative. Tapos, isa pang strategy. Pag hindi mo pa alam yung sagot, nagtanong pa ng follow-up question si employee, dun ka magagalit, dun ka mapipikon. Para lang yung tao tumigil na sa pagtatanong. Sa totoo lang kasi, hindi mo alam yung sagot. And that is why so many HRs get bad reputation. 'Di ba? Kasi kung nasasagot mo naman yung tanong, okay lang na hindi ka popular, okay lang na hindi gusto ng tao yung policies ng company. Pero at least they will respect you. The problem is when employees don't respect HRs kasi feeling nila yung HR walang alam. Kasi people can see through it, 'di ba?
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
it really like destroys the credibility of the HR na, ba't niya sinasabi to? Nagagalit siya pero wala naman sa lugar. That is a turnaround. What do you think, Sir Eric, no?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, when I was, ito totoo to ang tawag sa akin na when I was starting in HR, I was a loiterer. I
Mm.
loiter. Kasi pala hindi lang ako makita sa office, thank you Ernie by this question. Yung, kasi ako by that time, di pa na uso yung HR, medyo, syempre, medyo senior na tayo. Nung time namin, di pa uso yung mga term na HR business partner, no? Pero nung time namin, hindi lang makita sa office kasi Eric, kasi ganun. Nahanap ako palagi kasi lahat ng kasama ko na sa office. I spend my time talking to people, going to the plants, going to the line. Noong time, hindi ko pa alam yung business partner na yun. Sasabi ko kanina, hindi ko pa alam yun. Ang alam ko lang, I need to help these people kasi hindi pwedeng puro HR ako, I need to help. Hindi ko alam, wala mang mentor ako noon, wala nag-guide sa akin noon. But siguro to yun lang gusto ko sabihin, tama yon. For you to become a generalist, you need to initiate, no? Nung time ko rin, thank you Tina doon sa sinabi mo. Nung time ko rin, hindi pa using cadetship program, management traineeship program na meron tayo ngayon. Nung time na yon, I volunteered myself. Pwede ba ako mag-recruit? Pwede ba akong dito? Umikot ako, yung boss ko, I was very fortunate to have a very good boss noon sa Vitarich, the late Ray Honor, who allowed me to experiment on a lot of things. He allowed me. Nung time na yun, wala namang ngayon. Fortunate yung mga bata. May mga management traineeship, may mga cadetship program, but nung wala And because of that, to make kwento, I was headhunted, may isang company na napupunta nag-headhunt sa akin. And nung in-interview ko doon, I felt I do not have any chance. Nada. Because yung mga kausap, yung mga katabi ko, talagang from di ako, taga Bulacan ako Yung mga katabi ko talagang naka-dress to kill, taga Inglesero ako, galing Bulacan, sabi ko okay na lang, papa-interview lang ako si Tagalog, I was hired, I was surprised. And know why? Yung mga kasama ko doon, coming from different companies, were experts in their own subject matter experts. Ako lang yung hindi subject matter expert, but I know all. I know many things. Kaya sabi sa akin nung nag-hire sa akin, ikaw na lang kukunin namin kasi meron kang alam na about many things, although hindi ka expert, gag-guide ka lang namin. And I'm proud to say that company was Globe Mackay nung araw. That's Globe Telecom. And it opened the door for me to join the Ayala Group and work there for 22 years. Because of that lang na talagang I just initiated to go around and be a generalist on my own.
Do you agree with this? And I somewhat do. Sir Ernesto Espinosa has a follow-up. Sabi niya, the reality is some HR practitioners are so lazy that they are mostly armchair HR practitioners and bury themselves in administrative functions the entire working day. What do
Yes.
you think, Sir Eric? And I'll comment after
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Ernie. Ernie is by the way, is our founder and the head of the Human Renewal and Transformation Group of the Philippines. Pero hindi scripted yung question ni Ernie. Ang gusto kong sabihin, I agree with that kasi minsan kasi pag HR ka, nakakulong ka lang sa sa mundo mo. Hindi mo alam ang operations. Diyan na mag-uumpisa Tina yung yung hiding behind the prerogatives and the policies. Kasi you're just there in your you're an armchair general. You do not even know what's your product eh. You do not even know pag tinanong ka sa opinion mo, dapat ba mag-overtime to? Wala kang alam eh. And because of that, you hide your ignorance, if I may use that word, ano? You hide your ignorance or your laziness into nasa policy yan eh, sa commanding prerogative yan eh. Kasi hindi mo talaga alam eh. You are you're lazy, if I may use that word, yung word ni Ernie, no? To study. You're lazy to get out of your chair and study the business and talk to people, ano? Talk to people, dapat ano mo yan, dapat trabaho mo yan.
I
Thank you,
have to
Ernie.
admit, marami tayong oras para uminom,
Yeah.
para mag-good time, para manood ng K-drama. But honest talk lang for many HR practitioners. How many of us actually spend time reading the labor code, labor
Right.
advisories, the comments in the Philippine HR group? Kasi if you really spend time reading the comments at Philippine HR group and other HR groups,
Yeah.
marami ka talagang matutunan eh. And this is versus before where information was limited to books and libraries. Ngayon, all you have to do is search from your Google or search on Facebook and inquire about what's the difference between retrenchment and redundancy.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
nandun na yung sagot within the first 2 pages. And
Right.
yet, it is so easy for us just to shoot the question. Now, what is the difference between retrenchment and redundancy?
Right.
Na kailangan mo pang tanungin sa ibang tao, hindi mo gagawin na mag-research ng sarili mo. And why do you think that's the case, Sir Eric? Kasi you've dealt with so many different generations, 'di ba? May Gen X, Millennial, may Gen Y. I mean, are people really becoming way lazier given that information is so much more convenient? I mean, even AI can make a resignation letter for you or an incident letter for you. Paano hindi mo pa magawa ng tama? That all the tools are there.
Yeah, right, Tina, no? More of attitude na yung kasi, no? Parang there are people who are hindi siya matter of intelligence but kinakarir niya.
It's not eh, oo.
Yeah.
Siguro Kasipag, kusa, initiative, kusa, tsaka resourcefulness. It's the grit that Coach Darwin was talking about.
Right. I'll give an example na. Sorry, nag-stretch ko yung
Sure.
time. But this will
it's
capture
fine.
what we're talking about. Uniforms. We all have uniforms, ano? So, ibang mga companies, pag nag-launch ng uniform, may uniform, then may memo. Then tatakutin ka pa. Pag di ka sumunod sa uniform, may disciplinary action ka. Then sa previous company ko, yung mga employees namin sa Manila Water to, they're very creative, ano? In term ko, Tina, kinarir, alam mong ginawa nila. Yung uniform, idea nila to, of course, yung mga bosses kami, nagbigay lang ng thoughts. Pero sila nag-execute ito, all credit goes to them. The employee relations and benefits team. Alam mo ginawa nila, paano namin ni-launch yung uniform? Fashion show. Fashion show of employees. We have flag raising ceremony on Mondays, gumawa kami ng rampa doon. And habang nandun yung mga employees, nag-fashion show yung mga employees. From executives to union president and leaders, to ordinary employees, all shapes and sizes. At naging naging parang tradisyon na hinahanap-hanap ng mga employees. Pwede ba ako maging model sa susunod na uniform? In other words, what I'm trying to say is that some employees pwedeng petics lang eh. If I may use the word ngayon, mga petics lang. Uniform lang yan, ano yan. I-release natin, then maghanap kasi hindi susunod, penalize natin. But you make them proud of wearing that kind of uniform. And then of course, you be creative, etc. Na tama na, to answer you siya, sabi mo nga, all the tools are there. Misa ako nga, kaya hindi na rin ako, maraming questions sa PHRG, hindi na ako sumasagot kasi paulit-ulit about COE, redundancy and retrenchment. Nasabi nga naman, pwede bang i-google? Diba? In other words, kung kakaririn mo, kung medyo gusto mo yung trabaho mo, nasa higher level. Don't get me wrong, ha? I'm not judging people. Lahat tayo, may kanya-kanyang story. Lahat tayo, merong kanya-kanyang style. But if you want to go to the higher level, you go the extra mile. Yung mga senior leaders ngayon, sabi ko nga, hindi naging senior leaders siya kasi 8 to 5 sila. Naging senior leader siya kasi dumaan din sila sa hirap eh. Wala namang pinanganak na presidente, no? Maraming dinaan ng problema yan at dahil doon, yung character nila na-develop. And sometimes, minsan sa generation ngayon, Tina, Ernie knows about it, minsan sa generation natin, maraming people who just quit easily eh. Parang mga quiet quitters ba? Kumbaga sa
Mm.
trabaho, ang context ko trabaho, sa trabaho nahirapan, pinagalitan ng boss o minsan pinag-overtime ng ganyan, minsan di siya naka-attend ng ganito, dinadamdam and iduduktong ko sa kwento natin kanina, Tina. Minsan sabi may mental issue na ako dahil sa ginagawa nung, but isa clinical mental issue, di ba? Parang ganon, it's a maraming easy way out. Siguro because of what's happening ngayon, sayang, yun ang gusto kong sabihin, sayang yung generation namin wala kaming Google wala kaming ditong tools na to, walang internet. But nasanay sa hirap and because of that siguro mas na-shape yung character. Ngayon, maraming pwedeng gawin. Maraming pwedeng gawin na because of the tools and technology, AI will be your ally. It's not an enemy. It could be your ally na pwede mong gamitin.
Mm. I think the thing is, a lot of HRs, masyado nilang seryoso sa trabaho nila that they sometimes forget what is the purpose of their position.
Yeah, right.
Kasi hindi mo kaaway ang boss and hindi
Mm-mm.
mo rin kaaway ang
Right.
employees.
Yes,
Ang
right.
daming HR kasi minsan walang masyadong prinsipyo. Pagkausap yung empleyado, binabadmouth yung boss. Pagkausap yung boss, binabadmouth yung
Yes.
employee. Feeling
Employees,
Switzerland. And
yeah,
the
right.
problem, pag nag-usap yung boss and employee, and nalaman nila kung anong pinagagawa mo,
Mm-hmm.
nasisira yung credibility ng tao because you lack direction and you want to be friends of all.
Correct.
Like, it's very, sa akin lang, it's so easy for an HR to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, forgive me for saying it, the
Mhm.
pool is so shallow. It's so easy to be best.
Yeah.
Recently
Yeah,
dati,
right.
ang daming mga HR gurus, pansinin ninyo, mga HR
Mhm.
gurus ng
Mhm.
mga 40s, 50s,
Mhm.
60s na
Mhm.
20, 30, 40 years in the business. And
Yeah.
kahit na nag-retire na, they're still
Still,
being hired as consultants.
yes, right.
Because
Right.
the value they bring to a company is so huge that the knowledge and insight don't disappear with age. It just gets better.
Yes.
And then on the flip side, there's these people naman who's complaining bakit ang sahod nila minimum wage. Alam mo yun? And then when you hire them, kasi naawa ka, then you kind of realize na, baka overpay. Like, there's a reason why the value might be too low. It's because sometimes value is not what you say you have,
Relative. Yeah, right.
but value is the contribution and output you provide
Yeah, right. Correct.
inside the business. And we forget that.
Mhm.
Forget that, okay? We forget that we're not powerful because we're HRs. We're powerful because we have much influence, much knowledge, and much to offer for both sides.
Right.
For both sides, di ba? Minsan kasi ang HR selfish siya. Self-preservation ba? Di ba, don't you think? So, lalo na when you talk, nung time niyo, usong-uso yung union eh. That was a more difficult time than now.
Yeah.
How was it before? Dati may union. Ngayon, walang union. Ano pa, freelancing, parang remote workers.
Yeah.
I mean, no, they're not even your employees. What do you think is the difference? Kasi before talaga, I admit, it was a more difficult time for many HRs.
Siguro masabi ko nga lang because parang yung mga past generation, and I'm not saying this.
Yes, we're not saying this as a correct.
It's a factual lang na
we learn from each other. Ganun na lang tayo. We learn from the lessons.
Parang at that time mahirap ang buhay eh. Siguro sa tatagalogin ko na lang. Para ka mag-succeed as HR noon, mahirap ang buhay eh. You have to research, you have to talk to people, you have to do this. Imagine mo, wala kaming, di pa nga usin ma-Excel noon, gagawa ka talaga, may columnar ka, pag-accounting ka. So, nasanay ka sa ganun eh. Never sanay ka sa hirap. Pag sanay ka sa hirap, that means yung character mo, may dala-dala siya kahit papano. And kumbaga this is something naman, minsan ang problem naman ng generation namin, ito yung problem namin. Minsan, conscious din ako dito kasi may consultant right now. Ang problem naman sa generation namin, we think of yesterday's solution.
Hindi updated.
It doesn't apply ngayon. Dapat pag naman pumasok ka sa isang a new venture nga, talking to several firms, Like yan, I'm doing consulting in 2 companies.
Mm.
Hindi ko mo successful yung kinikwento ko about Manila Water, about Royal Saltings.
Mm.
Kasi
Mm.
mean successful dito, pag-aaralan mo rin sila. Ano ba yung
Mm.
meron dito? Ano ba yung pwede dito? Kasi each company has its unique unique needs eh.
Mm.
Yun ang sabi siguro to balance it out. Yung mga pasa na yung mga quote-unquote gurus, yung mga retired, marami kasi pinagdaan na mahirap yon. And because of
Mm.
that, medyo hindi sila madaling sumurrender. Ang medyo
Mm.
lookout ko lang doon, this is for myself lookout ko
Mm.
lang doon, minsan, it's just, ito, philosophy in life ko to, Tina, our greatest weakness
Mm.
is also our greatest weakness is also our greatest strength.
Great.
Because nga alam mo yung nandun at been there, done that ka, minsan may
Mm.
tendency na kapag i-apply mo siya sa situation na yun, na totally
Mm.
doesn't work kasi doesn't mean it's a wrong solution, just means na
Mm.
iba yung assumptions eh. So
Mm.
conscious ka lang dapat ngayon, hey, mga millennials na kausap mo. Hindi, mga
Mm.
millennials, dapat ganito ang treatment yan. Yung mga Gen Z, dapat ganito sila. Yung mga Gen Z, dapat mas higher yung purpose in life. When I was
Mm.
in Manila Water, Tina, I was able to hire many good talents, Uh,
Mm.
versus yung, kasi hindi rin naman ganun kalaki yung at that time, hindi man kami nagko-compete sa multinationals. I'm asking them, ba't ka dito sa amin nagpunta? Pwede ka mag-apply sa Procter and Gamble, Unilever. Sabi niya,
Tama. Oo, yun yung uso dati.
strong yung yung CSR sir eh. Yung
Mm.
Sustainable Development Star. In other words,
Mm.
merong pag may kausap ka ng mga bata ngayon, minsan na
Mm.
motivation lang iba dapat alam mo rin eh. You know what
Mm.
buttons you need to push eh. Kasi hindi naman sila kagaya ko na sanay sa
Mm.
hirap, sanay sa kung anong
Mm.
marinig ko, wala akong pakialam sa inyo. Pero ito dapat pinag-aaralan ko rin yung mga kausap ko ngayon, hindi na ganoon eh.
Mm.
Hindi ganoon. So dapat tingnan natin the best of both generations which we can combine.
Mm. I think what you're trying to say as well is that
Mhm.
the role of HR is
Mhm.
a lot of it is trying to convince the other person to follow you. How
Right,
to
right, right.
influence a person to follow
Mhm.
you. I don't think
Mhm.
the generations matter as much, but more
Mhm.
of the attitude of the HR.
Yeah, yeah.
Kasi sometimes when we're given an order or a policy that we
Mhm.
must execute,
Uh-huh.
we tend to do so in a very authoritative and dictatorial way,
Yeah, right, right.
which worked before,
Yeah.
but may not work the younger generations. Because
Right,
if
right.
you issue a policy, you
Mhm.
need to know the reason why and to be able to
Mhm.
convince the person as to why this policy is good for
Mhm.
everyone.
Mhm.
'Diba? And
Right.
a lot of people don't they want to shortcut that 'di ba? Kasi they just say,
Mhm.
ito yung policy. Huwag ka na magtanong,
Mhm.
basta mag-follow ka ng
Mhm.
policy. Tapos pag
Mhm.
hindi nasunod, mag-e-NTE
Mhm.
ka. Eh syempre
Mhm.
pag gano'n, nag-aaway na kayo. When in
Right,
fact,
right.
the
Mhm.
issue would have been non-existent if the
Correct.
policy was properly explained. Kasi
Mhm.
the policy naman is not unfair. Not all
Mhm.
policies are unfair. Some
Yeah,
policies
yeah,
are
yeah.
good
Yeah,
for
yeah.
all. For the
Mhm.
peace of all, 'di ba?
Mhm.
So, I think parang with HRs lang, there should be a bit of humility as well
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
in
Correct.
dealing
Agree.
with different generations. Kasi
Mhm.
we're so used to always, if we don't get our way, nagagalit tayo sa tao. When
Mhm.
another better way of phrasing
Mhm.
it is, instead of trying to change the other
Mhm.
person, change the way how you convince the other person.
Yeah, right, right, right.
Yung sa
Me,
usapan,
yeah.
maayos sa usapan.
Mhm.
Kasi pag
Yeah.
matigas, inaaway mo, lalong tumitigas.
Mhm. Mhm.
Pero pag matigas,
Mhm.
tapos parang
Mhm.
kinausap mo ng maayos,
Mhm. Mhm.
then you can settle on a
Mhm.
better
Right, right.
compromise.
Yeah.
But JVC gave a question kasi sabi
Okay.
daw niya,
Mhm.
dati daw kasi yung mga tao, when we listen to my parents, to
Mhm. Mhm.
past business people,
Mhm.
the attrition rates were not as high. The
Mhm.
people were more loyal. Kasi
Yes,
siguro
yes.
there were
Right,
no
right.
Facebook, there's no
Yeah, right,
Indeed,
right.
there's no Job
Right.
Street. So they didn't tend to move
Mhm.
from one company to the other.
Yes, correct.
They complained to Dole less. There was no
Mhm.
Tulfo at that time.
Yeah, yeah,
Life
yeah.
was more peaceful. People stayed for
Mhm.
years and
Yes, yeah.
raised their kids in the same
Mhm.
company.
Yeah, right, correct.
Now is a bit different. Do you
Yeah.
think now people lie more, lalong mas nag-aawol, lalong pag
Mhm.
nag-awol,
Mhm.
maglilipat-lipat?
Mhm.
How do you handle this current batch of people that are
Mhm.
less loyal,
Mhm.
more mareklamo,
Mhm.
more unreliable,
Mhm.
and have a
Mhm.
tendency to go to abroad.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Ganito Tina kasi we cannot customize programs or focus on. In fact ako, and I hope people listening here
Yeah.
will not misinterpret me, no? I would
Mm.
rather devote my time on developing the people who will deliver the results. It's a given, ano? But
Ah,
a
that's a
certain
good one.
segment, a certain segment kasi talagang may magrereklamo, etc. Ang sa akin lang, as long as the team did its best, meaning fair yung policy, na-explain namin, sinunod namin yung process, maayos,
Mm.
and then you'll find people complaining or leaving, wala na akong magagawa ron eh. Meaning, that's
Mm.
it. Kasi it's a trap also for HR, by the way. It's a trap that because people are leaving, people are ganyan, you spend a lot of time ganito sa kanila. Because
Mm.
of that, yung attention mo napunta doon, nakalimutan mo na 80 to
Tama.
90% of the people who are delivering and are complying, not complying, but who are there with you, same page, ano? Dapat sila yung, ano mo, kaya nga sabi ko nga, di ba, you cannot control the 10%, but what you can do is show them, model the way, na makakita sila, oo nga, no, okay naman ah. Dapat pakita mo yun eh. You cannot demand, ganito ako, hindi. Pakita mo na meron palang reward pag nagpe-perform. Meron palang reward pag pag medyo ganito ka, no? May pag-asa pala. In other words, meron talaga, meron talagang alis, wala kang magagawa ron. As long as nagawa mo yung part mo, okay na yun.
I love what you just said, and I'd like to repeat lang what you said.
Mhm.
Kasi a lot of us HRs
Mhm.
problematize when we hire good
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
Diba? We complain about people who leave
Yes,
unprofessionally.
right.
We
Right,
spend a
right.
lot of our energies worrying about
Mhm.
our pasaways.
Yeah, right,
What
right.
Sir Eric is telling us is we should
Mhm.
focus on the 80% of our company, the
Mhm.
people who stay.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Because
Mhm.
in every company, no matter how high the attrition rates are, there are people who still stay and keep the
Mhm.
company going.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what's important is if there's somebody who leaves for whatever
Mhm.
bad reason, to
Mhm.
correct the reason for leaving and focus more on
Mhm.
business operations instead of
Right.
worrying about yung tao na umalis na hindi naman
Mhm.
talaga babalik.
Mhm. Correct,
Sir,
correct.
may tanong kanina about yung
Sige, sige.
boss, yung high-strung boss, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
I know this is
Mhm.
perfect for your topic. How do
Mhm.
you deal with bosses na high-strung? I mean, di
Mhm.
ba, my boss is
Mhm.
high-strung. He's
Mhm.
so much into pressure and he
Mhm.
can't have normal conversations with his
Yeah.
employees.
Uh-uh.
How can I tell him to lighten up without him directing his frustrations on me?
Yeah. Number one kasi you've got to find, una may mga givens. Ano? Well, I always tell
Mm,
people, you have to embrace the truth. Not all
mm,
people are like us. Not people are, may mga, marami rin ako
right.
experiences na ganyan, na high strung,
Mm,
medyo bully mga kausap mo. Ganun talaga, no? Ang masasabi ko lang kasi, easier said than done. Masasabi ko lang kasi, you've got to deliver the results. Why?
Ayan, yan ang gusto ko.
Ito,
Pakiulit lang po.
Tina.
Mm,
You have to deliver the results. You know why? Kasi ang paniniwala ko, unless may problema tong boss na to na talagang may problema siya somewhere, ano? Wala naman
mm,
taong, narinig ko to sa dati kong boss, ulitin ko dito. Wala naman taong gumigising sa umaga at ang sasabihin niya, ngayong araw to papagalitan ko si Tina. Walang ganung plan. Ito mga papagalitan ko ngayong mga to.
That's true.
1, 2, 3.
That's very true.
Wala.
Mm.
Oo. In other words, you've got to find out saan nanggagaling yung
Galit.
intention niya, saan nanggagaling yung
Mm,
galit niya, yung pagiging high strung niya. And in
mm,
almost all cases, it begins with the deliverables. Kaya
mm,
ang solution dyan, number one, dumunta tayo sa root cause deliverables. Number one, you've got to be very clear with the deliverables. For example, ako, makulit ako. Pag nag-utos yung boss ko, I have the tendency or the habit of asking him, Sir, o kaya pangalan niya, to clarify, is this
mm,
what you want? The worst thing
mm,
that can happen kasi, Filipinos do not want to clarify things because they would
mm,
appear to be bobo. Pag nagtanong ako,
mm,
bobo
mm,
ako, di ba? Tanga ako eh. So ako ginagawa ko, I tend to clarify so that pag
mm,
gumawa ako, yung gagawin
mm,
ko, tama sa kanya. And even from time to time, I go back to the boss, Sir, ito yung ginagawa ko, okay ba tayo? Align ba tayo?
mm,
I ask that kasi ang minsan nagagalit ng mga boss, nag-utos siya, wala nagsasalita, gagawin ng 1 linggo, 2 linggo, pagbalik mali.
mm. Mm,
Yung
tama
galit,
yun.
galit
Mm,
talaga. So in other words, number one, masasabi ko lang, kasi ang root cause talaga niyan, deliverables, performance.
yes.
Unless may problem siya sa personality niya. Pero o pinipersonal ka. But most of the time, deliver mo. So you need to clarify. And aside from clarify, kailangan mag-set kayo ng expectations and feedback mechanism. Hindi pwedeng, sir, ito ba gusto mo? Oo. And then babalik after 2 weeks, mali, magagalit sa'yo. Okay. That's number one. Number two, minsan talaga may mga boss na ganyan. So ang sabi ko, unless may iba kang option, tiis-tiis ka. Endure. I'm not saying it's ideal. Sinasabi ko lang, you need to endure kasi kailangan hanapin mo lang saan nanggagaling yung high strung niya. May pinagagalingan yung team. Hindi ako naniniwalang gigising siya. May plano siya, 1, 2, 3, maging high strung ako dito sa tatlong to. May pinagagalingan niya, whether it's fair or not, hanapin mo kung anong pinagagalingan niya yon. Normally, deliverables o kaya habits, meron siyang pet peeve. Ganun talaga eh. Boss natin siya.
When a boss is angry, there is a reason why he is angry. He's not angry just because he's an angry person. Because when you're managing a business, there's a lot of things that don't go your way, even with your best intentions. Now, for employees who want to calm their bosses down, don't be the source of their problems. Kasi pag ikaw yung nagdadagdag sa problema ng boss mo, tapos gusto mo siyang patawanin, baka parang ang nangyayari, nagiging pilosopo ka. Your boss wants to fire you. Kasi ikaw na yung may kasalanan, ikaw na yung nagdagdag sa problema niya, tapos pinagtatawanan mo pa at yung problema ninyo.
Yes, right. Correct.
So the best solution to calm an angry boss down is to either, if you can help him solve the problem, solve it.
Don't
And
be
if
the
you
problem.
cannot, stay out of his way.
Yeah, right.
Kasi busy na, tapos guguluhin mo on some unnecessary issue na pwede ka namang mag-google. Di lalong magagalit yun. Right? So, either you help solve the problem or you don't add on to the problem kung meron kang gagawin na kaya mong yung masolusyonan mo naman yung problem. Don't bother your boss anymore about it. That's the reason why they hired you di ba? Google. Kasi may mga tao makulit Alam na nga yung sagot ko, tatanungin pa. Nakakaasar. Eto sir, paano naman for overworked HRs? Kasi sir, HRs that are overworked, narinig natin 100 people isang HR lang or 200 people isang HR lang, pero walang budget.
Yeah. Ano yan kasi sabi ko nga, it's relative. Yung mention kanina, the value is relative. If you go to your boss who doesn't know anything about HR, do not care about people and say, boss, overwork ako papagalitan ka nun. Pagalitan ka na, pinapasweldo ko na overwork ka pa. Pero dapat pakita mo, ang ginagawa kasi dyan talaga, Tina, there's a limit, parang accept mo na natin yung mga papel natin sa buhay. May boss,
Correct.
ako hindi boss. Tanggapin mo na yon para perspective mo tama. So what you can do is approach the boss and be factual. Be factual, ito nangyayari. And then, dapat alam din sa presentation mo, kaya sabi ko, be courageous, diba? Nandun din yung consequence, Tina. Meaning, the consequence is this. Meaning, kung hindi mo ako dadagdagan, ito lang ang kaya kong gawin, boss. Huwag mo na ako hanapan ng iba, ito lang kaya kong gawin. Kasi, yan lang ang kaya ko, tao lang ako Ito lang ang kaya ko. Pag hinanapan ka pa ng iba, hindi mo na talaga kayang gawin yon. Kaya nga ito sabi ko na, this is not a quiet quitting option. Sinasabi ko, part of what I say being courageous is accepting that there is no solution to the problem. There's a solution to the problem, leave. Kasi wala mangyari, masasayang yung productive years in your life. Nagtitiis ka araw-araw. At every other day, nagpo-post ka sa PHRG. Ito problema ko. Wala it won't work that way. Kaya sabi ko nga, yung mga boss na kung matino siyang boss, a decent and matinong boss na who loves his business to grow, you have to translate the HR recommendation into a business. Hindi niya maintindihan talaga, Tina, na ako overwork. Hindi niya maintindihan yun. Sabihin siya, ako nga mas overwork sa'yo. Hindi na nga ako natutulog. May problema. Totoo naman yun, di ba? Kaya dapat pakita sa ito yung setup natin because of this. Ito lang yung kaya natin gawin.
How would you recommend? How would you recommend yung mga HR practitioners? Kasi ang HR practitioner, many of them are psychology graduates or engineering graduates. Not all are engineering graduates or accountancy graduates. So, parang they don't really know where to start in
Mhm.
learning about the business. Kasi
Mm.
yung terminology of debit credit,
Mm.
assets,
Mm.
liabilities is not something
Mm.
they're that familiar with. Did you have that same problem as well?
No, no,
Kasi iba
kasi
talaga yung mindset ng
yeah,
business
yeah.
eh, hindi po ba?
Ang definition namin, Tina, kasi ng business is not the debit credit. Ano eh. It's
Mm.
about, if you're in a restaurant business, maging waiter
Mm.
ka, pumunta ka sa
Mm.
kusina. If you're making sugar, pumunta ka sa
Mm.
planta, tingnan mo paano nag-ooperate.
Okay.
So in other
Mm.
words, maganda yung question mo, no? Parang sinet up mo yung question, sinet up yung answer ko eh. Aside
Mm.
from being factual,
Mm.
this is very key, no? And mahirap tong gawin, ano? But kailangan,
Mm.
you've got to have allies in business. Ano ibig sabihin ng allies in business? Pag pumunta
Mm.
ka sa boss mo at may
Mm.
kakampi ka, chance ra baka
Mm.
makinig sa'yo. Ako ano ko yan eh, natutunan ko yan. Kaya what I do in strategic HR, there's a difference between traditional HR. Strategic HR is, ikaw nag-iisa, bida ka. Ikaw lang.
Mm.
Pero strategic
Mm.
HR, hindi ka masyadong bida, hindi ka nakikita, pero ang dahil mong kakampi. Baka bago
Mm.
pa pumulong, sabihin nung head ng operations, malakas siya doon sa boss, ano, boss, yung HR lalapit sa'yo kasi kulang na kami sa tao, nagsasuffer na kami. Kasi yung iba
Mm.
yung HR na pupunta ron, nagsasabing overwork ako, versus yung nasa line na affected ang business, affected ang bulsa ng boss, na magsasabing, boss, baka pwedeng dagdagan mo ng tayong HR kasi kulang na talaga, kita ko talaga ano. Baka makinig siya. In other words, part of being a business partner is you become, yung sinabi ko kanina na ano, na be, yung sa people's champion, ano, part of it is dapat magkaroon ka ng allies eh sa line. I'm
Mm.
always telling people, especially if you reach sa senior manager level, manager, senior lalo na pag HR head ka, magaling ka na eh. Given na yon, di na pinagtatalunan sa taas kung magaling ka o hindi. Ang pinagtatalunan na lang dyan, Tina, alam mo, may kakampi ka ba o wala?
Pero sinasabi nila minsan, 'di ba may mga HR, they get so
Mm-hmm.
discouraged kasi they
Mm-hmm.
feel that there's very powerful political place
Mm-hmm.
inside the company and
Yeah.
hindi nila mapasok-pasok yung
Oo.
malalakas. Kaya
Yes,
they
yes,
feel
yes.
that their suggestions are shut down. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
they're doing enough?
Yeah, parang
I
ganito.
mean strategically, we're not
Yeah,
blaming
yeah, yeah,
other
yeah.
people, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
strategically, do you
Yeah.
think that they're doing enough?
Yeah. In fairness, kung nagawa na nila yung, alam nila business, may alay sila, hindi pa rin nakuha, they've done their part. At sa akin, ginagawa ko na lang doon, I'm documenting, sorry
Mm.
baka masama
Mm.
tingin ng iba ngayon. I'm documenting things so that pag sumabog, alam nung mga boss, hindi ako nagpasabog niyan.
Mm.
Kasi dadating ang time, there's a consequence to things eh. There's
Mm.
dadating ang time, there's a consequence because ganito ka, ganyan.
Mm.
Nag-recommend ka na, hindi ka inintindi kasi may sarili siyang mundo. I just
Mm.
document things. Kaya
Mm.
pag nangyari yan, ito sasagot ko. May
Mm.
recent question sa page RG very valid yun. Nag-recommend yung sales director na poach yung talent na to, kunin mo.
Mm.
And then yung hindi siya nagalit yung presidente after 10 days. Ano kasalanan ng HR? Wala namang kasalanan ng HR eh. Pero may kasalanan yung HR. Hindi niya minanage. Alam naman niya kasing may problema eh. Of course, sinabi niya sa director. Dapat sabihin niya sa presidente kasi you have to manage things eh. Yun ang gusto kong
Mm.
sabihin. May mga bagay na wala kang control, Tina. Wala kang magagawa. Stress ka lang. Manood ka na lang ng K-drama. Wala kang mangyari sa buhay mo eh. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin, pag dumating ang time na nando ka na push against the wall, you cannot do anything. Just document. So that wag naman
Mm.
mangyari, things will go awry, will go wrong,
Mm.
you protect
Mm.
yourself. Not because protecting yourself, but sinasabi ko lang, that's corporate politics. It happens eh. We're not naive.
Mm.
It happens, ano? Minsan, worst thing na mangyayari, since ikaw yung hindi ka favorite, ikaw yung pipitikin ng management. Ano?
Mm.
Ganun talaga eh. It's a reality. Dapat tanggapin natin yun. If
Mm.
that's the case, you need to document things lang and be factual. Yun naman ang
Mm.
point. Be factual about
Mm.
it.
I'd like to say the comments from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Tena Kale Cayete is watching
Mm-hmm.
from Talisay, Cebu.
Okay.
Flor
Mm-hmm.
Borromeo is watching from Cebu City.
Mm-hmm.
And then si Jeff Chua tagged his friend. Sabi niya, Ian Along, the appear busy usually happens on fresh graduates and younger adults
Mm-hmm.
because they see their practice on the veteran ones. This may be their way to try to prove themselves. It is
Mm-hmm.
the veterans' influence whether this burnout causing practice will go away. Sabi niya ito. Uh, Marvin Fajardo says contemporary version of Ulrich for HR roles.
Mhm.
Marvin Fardo also says, awesome insights, Eric. Rosana Million says, dami ko natutunan, Sir Eric. Angelic Dohelio, thank you, Sir Eric, for a very insightful presentation. Silverio Beldoza, thank you, Sir Eric, for sharing this. Connie Aguinaldo Garcia, thank you, Sir Eric, for a great presentation. Sir Ernesto Espinosa says na it is called change management and you should follow a process for change. Sending an email or instructing people to change will not
Yeah,
be
correct.
successful in the new environment.
Correct,
We're
correct.
almost at the end of the show.
Mhm.
I'd like you to promote yourself and say last words, and I'll end the show after you.
Yeah, Tina, ano lang, I'm not doing naman any training programs. I'd like to thank lang Tina again for inviting me. This has been a very healthy and productive discussion. Thank you also for Coach Darwin for PHRG, no, for allowing me to be here. Of course, Ray Elbo, si Rona kanina. And I'm an HR consultant right now. Details are with PHRG. If you want to I'm involved with two companies, so hindi naman ako pwedeng mag-ano na ibang companies. But if there's anything you want from me, for example, a question or a webinar like this, you can just contact me. Yun lang.
I've come to the show, for
Mhm.
me, last words lang.
Yeah.
From the moment Sir Eric opened his mouth up until right now, I was pretty much blown away with his presentations and the way he answered his question. Here lies the difference of somebody very experienced, strategic, sincere, knowledgeable. That ako kasi as an admin and moderator of the PHRG, I am very surprised kasi Sir Eric doesn't really contribute as much to the comments.
Mhm.
And yet, he has such a wealth of management. Bawat hirit niya, bawat sagot niya, is another webinar altogether.
Mhm.
He started with number one, if you really want to effectively talk to management, you need to really know the business. And the challenge to many HRs is we should not stay inside the four walls. We should actually venture out and talk to operations, talk to the cashier, talk to the servers, talk to the factory workers, because you need to understand the operation, the business per se, and not just labor code policies. Kasi if you keep yourself to that skill set, ang mangyayari po is parang very limited lang yung gagalaw mo and isang part lang ng business sa
Mhm.
alam mo. So how can you blame management
Mhm.
for looking down on you?
Mhm.
If you want management to look up, you
Mhm.
need to prove that you have the credibility, that you know what you're talking about, and you are at par with them. When it comes to managing the business, you need to show that your idea is
Mhm.
as good or
Yeah.
better than them. And
Yes.
that comes with time and
Mhm.
experience and being proven right multiple times.
Mhm. Right.
Multiple times. And that means having the courage to speak up
Mhm.
and say your piece and
Mhm.
giving ideas. Kung pangit, pangit, 'di ba? Amin na ng
Mhm.
talo. Pero
Mhm.
kung you are well prepared,
Mhm.
pinag-isipan mo yung suggestions mo,
Mhm.
alam, eto yung policy natin, ito yung mangyayari pag hindi nasunod yung policy, eto yung rason bakit natin ginagawa ng policy, you will gain the respect of both and your subordinates and the
Mhm.
business leaders,
Yeah.
regardless of age. I don't think you need to be senior in
Mhm.
age or
Mhm.
in positions to be
Mhm.
able to fulfill that
Yes.
role.
Mhm.
But you need to open your eyes to realize that you have to put in the work.
Mhm.
Kasi sometimes for us, we want to be successful. That's why
Mhm.
we take up certifications. That's
Mhm.
why we study. That's why we attend trainings.
Mhm.
But the work is not just in the classroom eh.
Mhm.
Dapat your knowledge has to be applicable to the
Yeah.
workplace.
Yes.
And for it to be applicable, you need to understand your workplace.
It is.
'Di ba? Even if we had another speaker before, si Sir Mitch, 25 years old lang, pero he knows a lot about the
Mhm.
operations.
Mhm.
Sa bata pa lang, alam mo na
Mm,
sino
correct.
magiging successful.
Mm.
And kahit may mga matatanda na 30, 40 years old na nasa HR, obvious na wala pang alam. Obvious na binobola ka lang. So, wala sa age yan, wala sa experience, wala sa company, pero nandyan yan sa puso mo at saka sa kakayahan mo, which you need to upskill through time. Sir Eric is a very generous speaker because totoo sinabi niya you have to make allies within your organization. But you will only have allies if you're right most of the time and you're very well prepared and you're hardworking and people trust you. And really, that really puts in the work. So, thank you so much, Sir Eric. Would we
Thank you.
be able to invite you again to
Sure,
another
surely. Yeah, sure.
HR cafe? I personally am shocked,
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised.
Mm.
Sobrang lucky talaga yung mga companies who hire you as consultant kasi talaga you know how to manage all facets. Almost all facets of HR. And I really hope that parang more people will engage with. How will people be able to contact you after?
I think I gave you the my nasa slide yung number ko, saka yung email address
Can
ko.
we put to
Ayan.
the slide so people
Sure.
can screenshot it?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Nandiyan yan eh. Sambay lang ha.
Sige.
Okay. Yan.
Ayan!
Yan.
Alright.
Email.
Yes. So if
Yeah.
there's any questions for
Yeah,
Sir
sure.
Eric, please feel free to contact him at eric.reyes2010@yahoo.com.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
really hope, Sir Eric, that we can have you again
Yeah,
because you
oh,
are a
yes. My pleasure.
wonderful
My
speaker.
pleasure.
You have my respect
Thank you.
sa small talk natin. Maraming mambobola na HR pero hindi po kayo yun. So maraming salamat po. And with that, thank you so much everyone for watching the HR Cafe. We look forward to seeing you next week. And Sir Eric, let us leave the studio so
Sure.
at least we can
Salamat.
Thank you so
God bless.
much everyone.
Thank you.